Yo. Oh, why can't I hear myself? Yo, what is up, everyone? How are we doing today? Are you guys doing okay? It's so weird. Why do I hear myself? Where is that playing from? Can you guys hear me okay? Okay, bet. You guys can all hear me. I guess I'm just confused. Oh, wait. Is that it? Okay, yeah, I figured it out. I hit the wrong button and it was playing through my headphones. That was weirding me out. I'm not used to hearing myself. What is going on, everyone? We're just waiting for DJ Miles here. Oh, I think he's calling me right back right now. Hold on, y'all. I'll be right back. Myself here, and let me move over to home, and let me deactivate this camera, and we'll activate it over here. It should work if I'm not mistaken. I might have to leave and come back to the call. Yeah, I think I have to do that. Hold on one second. Yes, we are. We're in action. Okay, and then let's pop this out here. Look at that. Beautiful. Ready to go. How are we doing, everyone? Thank you so much for everyone that decided to pop by. Thank you, everyone, for holding out and waiting for us. I do appreciate it. Anyway, I'm a child. How are you doing, DJ Miles? Thank you so much for popping in and talking with us today.
To all of it, not just part two, the ending, the final chapter, the series as a whole, the legacy of Chainsaw Man, all that good stuff.
Oh yeah, for sure. I've got some notes myself laid out. I always do that. I keep posting it on my main. I'm gonna expose myself one day having some crazy shit on my notepad. But anyway, I've got some notes written down here in regards to because I did you manage to finish your part 2 read through, or you said you were binging it a little bit when I messaged you earlier.
Yeah. So I didn't finish, but I got up to chapter 200. So right before Denji and Yoru encounters the fake Chainsaw Man.
Okay. So, but pretty much like
But it's pretty much like the stuff I wanted to refresh my mind on, I got it. So.
For sure. Okay, cool. So then we can definitely. That's where I felt like was probably best to start with. For now, get into like our read through, what our thoughts were like going in, and what we thought about everything before the final chapter actually dropped. And then like I think then after we kind of go through that, then we can kind of say, okay, so this is how we felt about the final ending after saying all of that going forward. So like, I don't know if you felt the same way, but like one of the first things that I have written down in my notes here is that the first half of the story that we had already originally talked about last time, I personally, I don't know if you felt the same way. I completely agree that I think that was a much more tight-knit much better coherent part of the story than the second half of part 2 was. I definitely feel like we went a little bit off the rails once we got towards part 2. I don't know if you agree. The second half of part 2, like right after, I think personally for me, we started to lose a little bit of steam and focus right around like the house fire scene, when Denji first shifts into Chainsaw Man. But let me know if you like have any different opinions.
Yeah, I said this in my review yesterday. I also said it in the live stream. I think the introduction, with everything with Yuko, man, everything with Yuko, she was a well-written character.
Yes.
Yuko was one of those reminders from Chainsaw Man Part 1 where you see a character, they get in, they get out, but they leave an impact to the story. Similar to Himeno, similar to the Violence Fiend, Yuko was such an incredible character. But, I can glaze about her a little later. To answer your question, yeah, the initial thoughts, that to the dating arc, right? The aquarium, the falling devil was absolute peak. I actually couldn't stop reading. I was enjoying it that much. Like the entire time I was reading that entire first third, right? I'd say chunk of Chainsaw Man Part 2. I'm like, when does it get bad? When do we see the cracks? Of course, I jinxed myself because we see the cracks, I would say, in the Chainsaw Man Church arc. And again, coming off the Falling Devil arc, it's riding off the momentum of the Falling Devil arc. So, there's a lot of intrigue and, now we're getting to the political strife. We're getting like this crazy zealot church fanatics, dealing with a bunch of kids, exploiting those kids. Mm-hmm. Now we're really trying to get down to the nitty gritty of like what public safety is trying to do and trying to make Chainsaw Man docile, right? In the attempts of controlling him that way, so there's many interesting points right there. But to not get too ahead of myself, yeah, Chainsaw Man Part 2, with those first 2 to 3 arcs was fantastic.
I agree 100%. I think everything just made so much more sense. It seemed like we were really going somewhere. Whereas right after it, I noticed it. So as you know, like we both talked about it, I was like, I want to finish reading part 2 before the final chapter comes out. And honestly, having that experience really was kind of insane because it made me go back and look at everything in like a different light. Cause I'm like, trying to piece everything together. I'm like, can I make, like, was there something that I missed? Was there something that I forgot? Like, was there some way that all of this actually does make sense? And there were like a couple pieces of like information that I thought were interesting. Like even in that one part where I said it kind of started to feel a little bit unfocused and sloppy towards the second half, like after the house fire with the dogs dying and everything like that. I noticed, like right in that moment too, like you had a scene with Denji and Pochita where Pochita was like, oh, like, wow, so you've got everything you wanted, right? You got your normal life, you're about to have a girlfriend, like, oh, like, you want what's next? And he goes, I don't know. Like Denji's like, I have no idea what's next. And then eventually he's like, I want to be Chainsaw Man. And then that's when they come back to the house, it's on fire, and like that's when Denji turns into the turned into Chainsaw Man for the first time in a while, and it goes right down into the Chainsaw Man church arc and everything like that, Nayuta, all that stuff. And like I'm like, okay, like that's a little bit of a symbolism here. But then we get into like, honestly, in my opinion, the worst part of Chainsaw Man Part 2, which is like the just that weird segment where Denji gets caught. And then he gets his legs chopped off. Like, first of all, the part where like Pochita's like, how are you supposed to save Nayuta, Denji? You don't have any legs. I couldn't.
You don't have legs. Yeah.
That was cracking me the fuck up. That took me out so much. I was like, what is going on? But like the Nail Devil, Katana Man showing up, Quan Chi showing up. It's just weird. It feels so weird. It feels so out of place and just like. Like, because ultimately, where does any of that go? They don't even show up at the end. I mean, like, I think Katana Man dies to Black Chainsaw, and then that's it. What was the point of bringing him back? I felt like that was just one of the weirdest parts of Part 2 that still to this day to me doesn't make. I don't think there's a way to justify it, especially with the ending that we got.
Yeah. It's so fresh because I just read it. The Chainsaw Man Church is definitely better in retrospect with like, post the Chainsaw Man Church, right? But that entire prison break to the Shinji hands moment, like right leading up to the sushi restaurant, dude, it's bad. And and this is the thing I actually was annoyed with, because this is something we've all collectively as a community have said, right? Like Fujimoto loves making Denji suffer. They love making Denji suffer. When you remember part one, despite Denji suffering at the end of like every major arc, right? The Eternity Devil, Katana Man, Reze, there was always something still optimistic for Denji to look forward to, even when things got bad, like tremendously worse as part one continued, right? It still ended optimistically. When the end of the Chainsaw Man Church concluded, leading to the prison break, leading to like him being, again, the Shinji hands and like all that, like just verbal mistreatment, and just when he's at his absolute lowest, like when he's crying and he's like, oh my God, like, like these urges are driving me insane. And like Kobeni's Hibana starts laughing. And he's like, hey, this is not funny. I'm reading this and I'm wondering, why is Fujimoto making him suffer? Like, there's nothing at the end of the tunnel when he's suffering. It just progressively gets worse. And I'm reading this and I'm like, this is not enjoyable. There's nothing here to be appreciated, right? Like, it's already been, I would even say, at its peak. Hey, he lost his house. Miyawi is gone. Makima's dogs are gone. Right, or his dogs. Naita is dead. Right? Now that we know that Naita really died in that moment during the crowd mob, right, which is brutal, I think we get the point that he suffered. I didn't need to see him get, cut into limbs and pieces, which at the time, if you remember, a lot of people were thinking like, oh, is public safety trying to maybe like clone Chainsaw Man, right? Like that was their way to fight what the Chainsaw Man Church was doing, right? Like they're doing the devil contracts via the Fire Devil, but now they're going to somehow maybe like splice Denji's clones and, acquire Denji that way. No, they just did it just cause, right? Like what's the resolution from that? I don't understand. Yeah. It's never explained. It's never expanded upon. Denji suffers. And then when he gets out of that hellhole, he gets kicked in the nuts from Katana Man. I get it. It's a funny, callback. That's fine. Then Asa does it. And then, now Denji's at his lowest. He says, look, we can have this battle, but please let me find Naita. They don't find it. It leads to the alley scene. And then, like, he just a little weirded out. And I feel like I'm weirded out watching it. We finally get to the sushi restaurant. And that's when Barum comes and, we see the reveal of Naita. I really feel like there was nothing of any substantial importance from the prison break leading up to the sushi restaurant that we didn't already get at the peak of the Chainsaw Man Church, right? Like Denji's at his absolute lowest, arguably, right? Hey, you lost your house, you lost your sister, right? The via Naita. I don't get why Fujimoto made us go through that like conquest, because at the time, and I'll bring it back to you. Sorry, they're just so much on my mind.
No, you're good.
It's that okay? The Chainsaw Man Church gave us the reintroductions of the hybrids. So when we ended the church by saying, hey, no one has ever escaped this devil facility, it's the most tight-knit thing, and we see Quan Chi, towards the very end, it's like, oh my God, is Reze like being restrained here too, right? And no, we don't get anything. We don't get like, what's the payoff from the prison break? We get Denji back. I would argue Denji could have woken up at the end of the Chainsaw Man Church saying like, oh my God, Naita. And then like, hey, and then Yoshida talks to him. Hey, a week has gone by. I'm not going to tell you where Naita is, right? Denji and Asa could have like broken Fami out of wherever he was at that moment, go to the sushi restaurant, and here we are. I just think it was a complete waste. And again, that's the absolute lowest to me in Chainsaw Man Part 2. And, and now when you think about how the final chapter played out, and, don't worry, guys, there's a lot of thoughts on that we'll get to later on in this stream. It just seems like, dude, you dangled this carrot so long. And, dude, I mean, that was the point when I stopped talking about it weekly. It was like like post that. I'm just like, I'm tired. I can't,
So I will say, like, yeah, I think that is 110% the weakest part of the series for sure. The whole, like, yeah, getting Denji, like, brought into, like, the prison, and then they were, trying to, like, cut him up, and they were trying to, get him into pieces, I guess, to, like, you said, like, maybe make him docile, or who knows what, like, the overall goal was. One thing that I did notice that was kind of interesting, that kind of changed my perspective a little bit on the series, and I want to hear your opinion on this too, because this could just be my wild take. So in regards to like the whole like sushi thing and torturing Denji, because I know you call this the torture Denji arc, or is that something that you coined? Is that you said?
Yeah.
So like, if I was to at all like, and me, like giving the most grace whatsoever, like I guess like I could say that like the point of kicking Denji in the balls, not like when Katana Man kicks him, but like quite literally just kicking him in the balls over and over and over again. The only thing that I could like get from like rereading that was after the moment when Denji's like when Denji and Pochi have that short scene, and Pochi's like, "What else do you want?" And Denji's like, "Oh, I don't know, like just to be Chainsaw Man." That made me think that like. It kind of made me think about, because again, this is before the final chapter came out too, so keep this in mind. This is perspective I built before 232 actually dropped. I thought back to our conversation that we had, and I was like, okay, like I'm wondering if maybe this is like the reinforcement of like what Pochita comes to the conclusion of at the end, like hey, like you're unhappy, like nothing is gonna fix your unhappiness except you becoming Chainsaw Man, you being this hero, you being this whatever you want it to be. And like I guess that was like the reinforcement of like, I guess like everyone's like, oh Denji, you're probably upset because you're hungry. Oh Denji, you're probably upset because you need to get laid, blah 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 blah. And it's like, oh hey, like no, like Denji, he's blaming his problems on his horniness, when it's like, dude, I mean, like I guess like you're also 16 years old, at the same time, like it's 16-year-olds are going to be fucking horny. You're going through puberty, right? Like at a certain time, I think like part of that was just meant to be like, look, like maybe like you aren't going to be happy because you have this thing. You can't be happy because you have this Chainsaw Man being dangled in front of you of you can be the superhero, you can have this great life, and no matter what you do, you want to do that. You want to be. I don't know. Maybe that's just my thought. But what I really want to get into is I wanted your opinion on. Well, I guess what do you think about that? What was your opinion on that before I get into my second point?
Okay, so when Pochita asked them that was leading up, like the house was already on fire.
Yes, so basically when that happens, that's when Fumiko gets them out of the protesting crowd and everything. He turns the Chainsaw Man, he kills the Sword Devil, and him and Nayuta run away.
No. So what ends up happening is that the hybrids come again, right? So it's what's the name? Fugo, Sumi, whatever, the sword guy, but then the whip hybrid is there, and then so is like the long sword hybrid. So he turns into Chainsaw Man. Naita is like, we got to run. And this is the first time, well, I don't want to say the first time, but this is when Denji's ego just takes over completely. He's like, Naita, you need to run away from me. Because I'm going to stay here. I'm going to mess up all of them. And again, that's and before that happened, of course, that's when Pochita's like, hey, what do you want? You got your dream, right? And then he's like, I want to be Chainsaw Man.
And then right before he rips the rev, he looks over and Pochita's like, oh, hey, see, you got what you wanted.
Yeah. So, wait, so are you asking me like if that's...
I was just curious what your opinion was on that take of like of that, like adding like that context to like the torturing Denji, like if that was like, do you like what are your opinions on like, am I like, again, like this is insane that this is what Fujimoto was doing. I'm curious if like, what do you think of that take as to that's why Denji was getting beat to shit because that was trying to reinforce that point that Chainsaw Man was the thing that was holding him down, not all of his other flaws. It was Chainsaw Man that was making him so depressed.
But I still think my opinion is, well, again, I still think what I just said to you a little while ago is still like sound, right? Like, hey, what's the ultimate consequence of your ego taking over and telling Naita to get out of here? She died. That is on you.
Yeah.
You could have turned into Chainsaw Man, maybe like injure some of them and get the hell out, but you didn't do that. So to let Denji just wallow in that misery, like
Denji did turn into Chainsaw Man. That was the whole thing. He turned into Chainsaw Man right there, and then him and Nayuta run away with Fumiko. Fumiko betrays them, and then what ends up happening is I think Denji gets separated from them, and then Nayuta ended up with Barum, and then Barum is the one that sicks the protesters on Nayuta when Denji I think is completely separated from them, and Fumika's like, oh, you just have pet. Those are just pets. You didn't lose a family. Peace out, and she leaves Nayuta alone.
Correct. Yeah. So Fumiko leaves. Naita ends up using her chain ability because she can only do it up to 3 times. She ends up controlling one of the mob members, grabs Denji when he's already after fighting the 3 hybrids. Barum is still there, like injured or whatever. And that's when the mob is like, hey, we should not hurt a kid. And then Barum, tries to shoot.
He pretends
Naita,
like, oh, she's controlling me.
That, like, hey, no, she's controlling me. And, that's how she goes out. Yeah. So, again, if that's the consequence of you being Chainsaw Man in that specific moment, and it is your fault, that is right. Like, I'm okay with Fujimoto making Denji suffer because of that, but I'm saying to get like these 2 mini arcs of like the prison break and the torture Denji arc, right? To me, when I was rereading that, like I felt like I got that point when Naita died, like, and when you fast forward to the Aging Devil arc, and this is like another great moment I like, despite all of it, and this is a conversation he had with Asa during the Falling Devil arc, he's like, despite all of this crap, as long as there's girls, as long as there's grub, as long as I can make a new family, life is still worth pursuing. And I thought that was just such a beautiful thing, right? Like he took agency and acceptance that like Naita died most likely because of me, but like I still love this life and I can still form a relationship and continue on.
100%.
And so I'm going to jump a little bit ahead of myself. So when we get to that like last chapter and the penultimate chapter, this is basically a new Denji. Like I see people arguing that like, no, he remember everything from 1 and 2. No, he didn't. Like to me, I don't think he didn't. I think it was just all a dream meme. It was an all a dream meme, and like this is a brand new Denji.
We can get into that. Like I said, I definitely don't want to jump ahead. I definitely don't want to jump ahead. But because we could definitely get into that. Because I have Denji as a whole segment when it comes to like the final chapter talk. But sure. I wanted to get your opinion on this.
But I hope I answered your question with that.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. I wanted to get your opinion on this. This was the second thing here. So one thing that I did one thing that I did notice too, is that, did you notice that like they actually Barum mentions it in that sushi scene, and it kind of went over my head, but I didn't even realize it, and it kind of added some context as to a lot of the actions that like the Chainsaw Man Church does, and like why everything is so chaotic. Is Barum, I don't know what the specific quote is, I'd have to pull up the page, but Barum basically says that in order to get the Chainsaw Man that erases existence, so in order to turn Denji into Black Chainsaw, they have to meet 2 criteria specifically, which is they have to raise Chainsaw Man's fear around the specific area everywhere, all at once, at least in the specific area, so raise terror everywhere they can. And then they also have to cause specific trauma to Denji at that moment at the same time. So like in that moment, I kind of caught that and I was like, that's really interesting, because if you think about it, right in that moment, that's when the Nayuta head reveal happens, right? And in that moment,
I'm looking it up. It's chapter 170.
Yep. And that moment, if you think about it, that's when the Chainsaw Man Church was going out. They were starting the riots. They were killing everyone in Chainsaw Man's name, doing everything. And then right at that moment, he goes, oh, next we have to mentally traumatize you. And he goes, oh, hey, here you go. Here's Nayuta's dead, head. And in that moment, that's when he transforms into Black Chainsaw. So I thought that was interesting because it added some perspective, at least to me. And I know that this might be skipping ahead a little bit because I don't know if there's anything extra you want to touch on when it comes to it. But like the final battle itself, it reframed that for me, because it made me think too, like, okay, Yoshida showed up, like, so what happened? Death gets that big reveal, and everyone's like, and she kills Fami, she kills Fake Saw Man, eats them, and then regurgitates them, and they're like, okay, what's your plan? And she goes, I've got a plan. You guys need to cause terror everywhere. You guys need to do that. And then right before the final battle, you have that like small scene, like Yoshida shows up and he's like, hey. And then you have the scene of Fami and Death like kind of looking out the window as if they kind of know what's going on. And then what does Yoshida say? He goes, oh, well, sorry, I'm the trigger. And then he gets blown up by Barem, and Barem goes, damn, me and Yoshida really drew the short ends of the stick in this one. And then that's when he gets eaten, and that's when Denji turns into the Black Chainsaw Man again. And I'm like, okay, so this was all plotted basically by Death, it seems, for this to get War as strong as possible and to get Denji as strong as possible. And that's kind of what she did. And then I'm like, okay, something that she also mentions that Barem and Death both mention as well too, is that they say their main goal at the end of all of this is to separate Denji and Pochita's heart entirely and make them two separate beings, so that way they can kill Black Chainsaw Man and keep Denji alive separately. And I'm like, oh my God, that is kind of what fucking happens, right? Like, Denji and Pochita do technically get split apart into two separate beings now. Their contract is over. Pochita eats his own heart and he's blipped out, and now Denji has his own life. However, and so I'm like, oh my God, this is what Fujimoto is going for. He was telling he was telling us this whole time. And then we got the final chapter, and none of that is brought up or concluded or mentioned or even confirmed. And I'm like, okay, so I guess that was just my sick fever dream of a perspective on the story that I now have to just guess is just my interpretation alone. It's just my imagination. But like, that's what I like. And I guess then we can get into the final chapter after. Like, after my reread, that's kind of what I came together before that last chapter. I'm like, oh my God, like this kind of was exactly what Fujimoto was gearing up for the entire time. It just feels like at the ending it is so detached from that. And that's I guess where my ultimate opinion in my review that I said was, where I'm like, I feel like this ending would be perfect. If it would be fine, I'd be okay with it. I'm fine with it realistically. But like I think it would hit way harder if we had like just a couple chapters in between that, like I said, actually concluded the story itself, that the Nostradamus prophecy, the whole plot of fucking part 2, instead of just the characters itself. But I guess I'm curious, what do you think about that? Like, do you think like with those like quote unquote like moments, like does that make it seem like this ending kind of like was like kind of what always was being built toward? Maybe Fujimoto just kind of fumbled it. Like it seems weird to me because like I said, like I did notice those little things like as I was rereading, and I'm like, huh.
Yeah, I want to put some perspective reinforcing what you said, and just so the chat can follow along too. So let's get through the Barham quote. Right, this is in chapter 170. So he says, "Getting back on track." Barham,
are you able to send me this, or maybe share your screen, or?
Oh, yeah. You know what? I'll just send you the screenshot right now. Yeah,
I would love that.
Yeah.
Thank
and this
you
is
so
just
much.
so fresh on my mind because I just read it.
Yeah, so, no, 100%. I'm glad.
Yeah. Okay, here we go. So the first one, I'll read together or I'll read out loud.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I see
so, to fully become Chainsaw Man, you need two things: everyone's fear and your unhappiness. Chainsaw's recent superhero status made that a pain. So I guess he's talking about from the beginning, right? Because everyone's cheering for Chainsaw Man, right? Like with the cockroach devil, etc.
That's why they had to do all the protests and everything and turn the people into the chainsaw monsters.
Correct. Now, though, he's become an everyday object of fear on par of aging and sickness. Now time, okay, blah, blah, blah. And then, we get the night to reveal. Okay. And then the other thing where you were talking about, I think you were a little like you were on the mark. This is also in chapter 165. So this is the quote unquote, the beginning of the Denji torture arc, right? Where Fami ends up revealing, or Lil D ends up saying, hey, the terms of your contract require you to live a normal life. If you break the contract, the heart's owner, the real Chainsaw Man, will emerge. If we defeat the real Chainsaw Man and transplant a human heart into your body, you can become an ordinary human again. And what's interesting, the next page over, Denji says, why do you know about that? And, Fami never ends up answering. Yeah. And then, also like a little confused and all that stuff. So, did Fujimoto have this all along? And I'm going to jump around a little bit with what you were saying.
Yeah.
I was a denier yesterday when I was saying there's no way with what I read from the beginning, post Falling Devil, or shortly after the Falling Devil, that this was Fujimoto's conclusion, right? Like I don't believe that 232 was a result of what he had in mind in the beginning of the story. But then the more I sit on it and the more you think about Fujimoto as a mangaka, maybe he had that ending all along. And, you know, these little quotations that I'm sharing with you, these screenshots, is like, yeah, these little subtle hints of like where Fujimoto was taking the story all along. So I've come to accept that 232 was always the end point to part 2. However, you know, and again, just not to like make this too much of a running joke, it's the same thing we hear with Dan and Dave and the conclusion of Game of Thrones season 8. If George R.R. Martin like has Daenerys become like an evil Targaryen, have like Jon Snow ultimately like stab Daenerys, how we got it in the show, even if those were the resolution with those characters, like those were those fate, getting to that point was just sloppy. And I think if Fujimoto really had intended for Chainsaw Man Part 2 to end the way that he did in 232, to me, I feel like it's sloppy too, right?
Yeah.
Like I right, because I think a lot of people, even collectively, you know, I watched your video twice. I saw all these people talking about their thoughts on the final chapter, and for the most part, a lot of people are like, as a chapter, it's fine. Like the chapter itself is fine.
Yeah.
But getting here was very rushed, right? Like, dude, you have to remember when we were talking 2 weeks ago or last week with the penultimate chapter, this was just, it came out of nowhere. We just got the resolution of the battle with Yoru versus Denji. Out of nowhere, the bugs, you know, we see them kind of like punching Denji, and then Pochita's like, hey, actually, we just got eaten. So I'm going to tell you what, this is what's going to happen. And then, of course, you know, when we got that final page where it says the chapter series ends in 2 weeks, dude, it was just so jarring. So when you look at the last two, the final chapter, and it was 32 pages, you know, because I heard someone break down like manga volumes and all this stuff. They're like, hey, like the last chapter could have been like, maybe there's one more chapter after that, but no, the 32 pages is essentially
Stranger
the last
Things,
two chapters, right?
Conformity
So
gate all over
this is
again.
the thing.
This is the coping. The coping. You know, my series isn't over. It can't be. There's no way. There's going to be another chapter that explains everything.
Yeah. But before we get to the last chapter, I think that's why it bothers me how it mapped out, because if we stick with this timeline, right, that Fujimoto had 232 mapped out from the beginning of chapter 98, why was part 2 longer than part 1, sloppy in certain sections? If we were really going to get a reset, why even bother giving us so much backgrounds and interesting concepts when, hey, you could have made this part just as long, if not shorter, than part 1. And I think I would have been more okay with this ending if you didn't take us on some of these side quests. Right? If
exactly.
This is how the legacy of Chainsaw Man concludes, you made us run around, and, you know, and I agree. I think, you know, the mangakas have it hard, and I think, you know, just like Gege, Hirokoshi, you know, like all these mangakas, like they get burnt out because of the scheduling they have to deal with. Yeah. You know, and I think there's a point, right, similar to Gege, because that's the most recent example. Could we have gotten an additional 4 to 5 chapters? Yeah. But when you're probably Gege, and again, I don't want to speak for him, but like imagine just being put in his situation. Could you give another 4 to 5 chapters, like a month and a half? But at this point, you're already burnt out and you already have the last chapter, right? Like the last chapter's done. I don't blame these mangakas for just saying, fuck it, here it is, you know? So that's why this ending of Chainsaw Man Part 2 is a little of a hard pill to swallow, because there could have been more expanded upon. But again, if we just go off of, hey, you had 232 in mind from the beginning, boy, you could have cut a lot of stuff and I would have been way more forgiving. But I think because you brought a lot of exciting things, and I'm sure you saw that Big Lebowski quote or whatever, we can break that down too. You know, you didn't have to take us on this like goose chase for as long as you did. And I would have been way more forgiving. But I think as a result, personally speaking, I think that's why I have a problem more so with how part 2 has just played out.
No, I think I honestly I feel even more confident about what I said to you last time about how Fujimoto is just super fucking Tarantino pilled. And he just writes his shit like because you know what's interesting is I kind of even said it because you said you watched my review, right? So towards the end, I mentioned how like this is very similar. Like I'm saying similar things to what a lot of people were saying about Jujutsu Kaisen Modulo, and I didn't feel the same way at all. I'm like, you get like I don't think there's things that are left out. I think this is fine. And my conclusion out of that was like for a 25 chapter story that I like you said you didn't spend multiple years on watching it and reading it. I'm like, if there's unanswered questions, that's fine. This is a 25 chapter story. I did not expect everything to be fucking put together perfectly within. It's a 25 chapter story. There's going to be things that kind of are just there to be there, you know, and I kind of was going in expecting that. Whereas this is 232 chapters. You can't, the same kind, like, you know, it's so, I'll get into this and then we can get into the final chapters because it's really relevant to what I was talking about. It's so we talked about the aging devil lore, right? What the fuck was the point of all that? What the hell was the point of all of this? And I'm going to piggyback this into my overall point, which is, before I read the final chapter, and again, I was rereading everything and I was kind of piecing my big brain theories together, right? What was the point of all this? Like, they have that big moment where they're like, yeah, you know what? There was one person that escaped the aging world a long time ago. We don't know. We never get any kind of confirmation as to who that is. But like, it's just briefly mentioned. And then later, and then obviously we know what happens to people if they stay in the aging world. They become a tree. But what the aging world, 4,000 years, what the aging world, what the aging devil does say that I thought was interesting, was, oh, you know, if a human was like, they become a tree because basically they're about to ascend, but the human body is not able to reach that point. They stop and they become a tree instead. So
I just shared the screenshot with you. I just shared the screenshot with you.
Yeah, I'm like literally
I took a screenshot because I'm like, these are one of the things I wanted to talk about with no operator.
Yes. So I'm like, oh my god, like, is this it? Like, is Pochita like the dude? At least that was what I'm thinking of. I'm like, are they going to reveal that Pochita is the person that, you know, left the aging world and then he's the one that evolved, quote unquote, into a devil? And that's again, like, all of these things that sound cool, but like for me, that's really what is left on like the cutting room floor at the end of this. Like at the end of the day, like that's like my interpretation, that's my imagination, like that's what I can think and I can come to that theory, and like that's a cool thought. But like again, if this was like a 2-3 hour fucking Quentin Tarantino film, I'd be like, okay, cool, this is up for my interpretation. That was put there for me to ponder on this. For a fucking manga that we spent all this time for, I'm like, no, I want to fucking answer that question. I read this whole fucking story. Give me the answers that I want. And that's ultimately what I feel like towards the end of going back into like the final chapter is like, where again, like you said, where like this chapter as a whole could have worked. If again, like imagine, like at least like imagine, let's say for example, if I was right and there was one chapter between this where Death and Pochita are like just in a black void, and Death's like, you know, this was the only way to stop the apocalypse, and Pochita's like, yeah, you know, I know, blah 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 blah, and then like even something small like that, a smoke that just ends the actual story that we have been fucking following for this entire time. Like again, like why did you introduce why did I care about the Nostradamus prophecy? Why did I care about all of this? Like, I guess you could say again, I can come to my mind and say, well, this was the only way to stop the apocalypse. But again, like tell me that this was the only way. I don't know, like at least make it clear that this was the only way. I don't like I think with Modulo, my issue with people's opinions was that like they weren't able to leave anything for imagination. They didn't want to imagine anything. They wanted everything spelled out for them. Whereas I feel like this for me is the exact opposite conundrum, where Fujimoto doesn't spell out enough. He leaves too much to interpretation as opposed to just like actually giving answers on things that we need, like that are important for the story to have a satisfying payoff. It's like there's you don't have to answer everything, but I feel like there are some things that were definitely important that just we didn't get any kind of answers or clarification for, that are just going to be, if we don't get a part 3, are left in the dust. And some of those things I have specifically as bullet points for the final chapter, but I'll let you go ahead because I've been yapping for a minute.
No. It's good yapping. I was ready to speak with you for like well over 3 hours today. so
Bet, bet,
please,
bet, bet.
because that's the problem. So I told people, hey, it's a chapter 185, where the aging devil brings
I
this
threw it up there
concept.
for
So
a
let
little
me.
bit, but yeah.
Oh, okay, you threw it up there. Okay, perfect.
Mhm.
This is this is how I started my review yesterday and my live stream. It's the emotions are running on overdrive for everyone because when you commit years to something, and someone says the opposite of what you're feeling, you don't want to feel ashamed, you don't want to feel guilt, you don't want to feel embarrassed for liking something when the other side is like that's stupid and vice versa. So when you have this ending that, yeah, I can find the good in this ending and I can find the what I think Fujimoto was aiming for, I can accept that. But and this is now again where this is gonna sound like my ego, and this is where people are gonna be like, okay, Miles is just trying to sound a certain way with what I'm about to say. But for the people defending it more so than why more people are disagreeing with it, there's a little more cope happening on the defenders of like, this series is good. Can you guys just not see the comprehension devil, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, I saw so many people that were like, this is peak fiction and you just don't understand it. Like, no, stop. It's not.
No.
It's not a 10 out of 10.
Because you know what? Let me just open up this Big Lebowski bullshit quote I've seen around, right? The Big Lebowski is a 2-hour movie, and it's like a meaningless. I don't want to say meaningless, right? It's fine. It's about kidnapping, right? So, like, when you
I've
get
never
to the
personally
conclusion of
seen
like,
it, so don't attack me, attack him.
no, it's fine. Basically, it's just like the plot, right? Just to make it easy for you to understand, it's just like a Tarantino thing. It's just a very simple story. It's fun. It's good for what it is. And when it ends, it basically ends with like, oh, what was the point in all this? It was chaotic. The characters progressed, but at the end of the day, it didn't really matter. Now, when you say Fujimoto was going for a Big Lebowski ending, okay, we didn't need to spend over 130 something chapters in part 2 to get to that
That
point.
doesn't make it good just because that's what he was intending. Yeah.
Yes, and furthermore, right? If that's what he was intending, why give us concepts on what the aging devil is talking about? Why bring up the Nostradamus prophecy if the conclusion was going to be the same? Or you make the prophecy like the point, right? Like the narrative, right? But you just fuck it. Don't expand upon it. Why even bring the fake chainsaw man? Why was the fire devil here? Why do we have the real famine devil not contribute shit to this story?
Yeah,
just because you just needed the fourth.
Yeah.
That's because you needed the fourth one just to say like, hey, we got all of them here.
She had to show up. Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. It's like the people defending it. Hey, I'm not attacking you if you got something good out of it, because I'm trying my best to find the good in this ending, because this isn't just the ending of part 2. This is the ending of the entire series and the legacy of Chainsaw Man. And I think that's when I'm having more of a tough pill swallowing. That like, this is not just the ending of part 2. This is the ending of the entire story. And this is how you choose to, get us there. It's again, for the people who are like, oh my God, it's so good. How can you not understand? No, I understand. But for a lot of you bringing up the Big Lebowski, again, I'm really trying to say this respectfully. The plot is way less significant and down here compared to the themes and the character development we've seen with Denji and who we're rooting for alongside with Asa. For you to say, oh, this is a Big Lebowski thing. No, the Big Lebowski is Fire Punch. Read Fire Punch, that is the Big Lebowski. Because they bring some existential stuff there too. And, if I can share the last page, how Fire Punch ends. They watched the movie the whole time. That's a Big Lebowski ending. It was just like, hey, everything we saw, it was our main 2 protagonists watching the movie of themselves, watching Fire Punch play out. That's a Big Lebowski ending. You can't really do that with Chainsaw Man. And if you're, and again, now let's just go off the tangent on Fujimoto. That was the intent all along. Again, I would say so, but you had to make Chainsaw Man that story it couldn't be all your other one shots, right? Like all your other one shots do that so well. I don't know if you've seen it's on Amazon for whatever reason. It's not on Crunchyroll. It's like
Look Back.
the Fujimoto
Me
18.
and my girlfriend just watched it.
Not Look Back. It's like the Fujimoto 18 to 26,
Oh,
whatever it's
no,
called.
I haven't.
It's just like, so on Amazon, if you have Amazon Prime, it's like 8 episodes of Fujimoto's like one shot. They're just like 8 little, like, you know, some are 15 minutes, some are 30 minutes. Those are great because those are just like Fujimoto being just so weird, you know, but like, again, this is Fujimoto. So just like, imagine Tarantino giving you 8 short stories. You would be on board with it. Right. So, you know, again, if he really is on this Kool-Aid of like a Big Lebowski and he wanted to make Chainsaw Man so chaotic and hey, like we gave these characters meaning and we alongside, like we, the audience, followed what these characters did. But at the end, it was all for naught because, hey, we got a reset. That's not satisfying to me. You gave yourself a get out of jail free card and I'm going to call you out. That's bullshit, dude. It's bullshit.
So we could definitely get into like the final chapter now, because I pretty much got most of my things out, and there are things that I can also sprinkle in between. But like,
sure.
So this is where I hope that like, because like I know it's not. I'm okay with the ending. I think the ending was all right. I think the ending was like it was. I don't think it was the worst thing in the world. It didn't disappoint me greatly. I definitely thought that there was a lot of stuff missing. But I will say one of the most jarring things for me was Power coming back. That was like it was the last thing that I expected whatsoever. I'm okay with it. I thought I was talking with my editor Jesse, and she said it, and I agreed with it. Like it's so weird that we got Power back, but not Aki. I guess specifically because I guess Aki would never be a public safety because you don't have Makima, or like, you know, there's reasons maybe humans don't come back. Only the devils are the ones that come back. It's so weird that that Power comes back and not Aki, and Nayuta being Makima is so funny. Yeah. To me. But really what annoyed me the most, I think, out of anything is the fact that Yoru just doesn't get an ending. If you want to call what happened with Asa an ending, that's fine. I would give it like a half, you know, a half ending, I would say. But Yoru, of all things, just gone. Yoru never mattered. That last conversation that she had with Asa was not enough for me. I don't know about. I felt like if it was going to be the last conversation that I had from her, I definitely needed more from her. That was kind of the biggest disappointment for me, was that Yoru just amounted to nothing. I even started questioning myself rereading it. I'm like, oh my God, is this like Yoru admitting that she never existed? and she was just an Asa personality, but I'll never know. I don't know. Who the fuck knows? The War Devil, you know, I don't know. I don't know what her point was, because that's my one biggest problem with it for sure. What the fuck?
Yeah.
It just became Denji's story at the end. I thought it wasn't his. I thought it was Asa's, and that's all.
That's what I'm saying. So I watched your video twice because I'm embarrassed to not bring that up with Asa too. Like, this is Asa's story. You know, and it seemed like Denji took over at the latter half. It seemed like Fujimoto's like, hey, oh yeah, shit, this shit is about Denji at the end of the day. So he kind of like took that, and, you know, you kind of stripped the agency from like Asa and Yoru when we spent so much time with them. And I'm telling you, I didn't finish the full read through, which I wish I did before coming on, but I got up to chapter 200.
Yeah.
And again, rereading everything with Asa and just seeing the development that her and Yoru embark on, and they don't have closure. Again, I think this is sloppy. This is just very sloppy. Again, if 232 was what you had from the get, why did you make us go on these meaningless goose chases? That's what I'm saying. Like, dude, there's nothing. I hate going back to it. There was no point in that Prison Break arc. What right? Like, yeah, we get the reveal that like, oh, you know, Gilly's there, and, you know, we learned a little bit about like Lil D's powers, right? Who cares? That doesn't go anywhere. You know, leading up to the sushi restaurant, that doesn't really go anywhere. But us just seeing Fujimoto just expanding upon Denji's suffering and trauma, right? Like I got the point when his house was on fire and Naita died. Believe me, I was there. You know, like I'm telling you, rereading that alleyway stuff, it's actually sickening. I'm like, okay, I get it. Like I don't know how much more I need to see. But I'm getting off topic. You know, so oh my God, I lost my train of thought. But going to the last chapter, this is again for the enthusiasts who are like, how can you guys not see and blah blah blah. I just, you know, I said this in my review how there's like you know, I think it was like the Loki show from Marvel where, you know, we have the split timelines, right?
Yeah.
And there's I think called a nexus point. And I think a nexus point, someone correct me if I'm wrong, but regardless if it's wrong, the concept is still there. In all the universes, let's talk about Spider-Man for a second, right? No matter what, in all of the universes, for Spider-Man to become who he has to become, right? He has to lose Uncle Ben.
Yeah.
You cannot go to
event.
any. It's a canon event. You know, he has to die. And, you know, and I think that's what one of those animated Spider-Mans was all about, right? Like when the future Spider-Man was like, hey,
peak fiction. Yeah, if you haven't watched it, you got to watch those movies, dog.
Fantastic movie. Yeah. We're the future Spider-Man is telling, you know, the Miles, like, hey, like, dude, I tried going into every timeline. Uncle Ben has to die, right? What is the nexus point in the time reset? We don't know. But what we do know is how part one played out. So I like all of these things that people are saying on why Aki's not here and why Makima's not here. But guess what? For the people who are like, where is Aki? Why isn't Makima here over at Naita? I would argue that we have more credence because that is the timeline that we followed along with, right? If Makima's not here, for whatever reason, that's fine. But everyone just expanding upon like, well, Denji consumed her and, you know, he did it out of love and therefore she doesn't exist in this new timeline. But, or, oh, like Makima's agenda was going after Chainsaw Man. If there's no Chainsaw Man, there's no Makima. But we also know that if Naita's here, Makima had to have died. So what are you talking about? And why is it so convenient that it's Naita as a kid? Why is it not Naita when like Kishibe first found her? Why isn't it Naita when she's old as Makima? You know, you know, it's not that I even necessarily wanted Aki back if you brought power, but like you could have done like the Dark Knight trilogy where like what's his name, Alfred is like, oh my God, Bruce Wayne is gone, and then like he finds Bruce Wayne in that like cafe with like Catwoman. You know, he's like, oh my God, like there he was. You could have given us that moment with Aki. We're like, hey, Aki maybe doesn't have to talk to Denji, doesn't have to talk to Power, but we see like Aki and Himeno like just in one little short panel. You see him in a panel
or
like,
Aki with like his family, dude, or like, yeah, like give us a closure, you know, give us something.
That's what I'm saying. It just like, again, for everyone saying, well, this is what happened, we don't have proof of any of that shit. We have no proof of any of that shit. If anything, it's more problematic that they weren't in the last chapter. You know, it doesn't make sense in the timeline. There's no nexus point. Like Makima had to like die, or like Denji consumed, you know, Makima, and therefore this new timeline she doesn't exist. But then why is it Naita? I don't understand. And then again, because here's the thing. Before I just start going crazy, because I'm already going crazy, right? It would have been easier to bring Makima and Aki back, right? Even if their roles are smaller or just different in this timeline, because when you self-insert Naita over Makima, then of course, as we're reading the chapter, as it plays out, then that means, okay, then the other horsemen must exist. Is Yoru going to still fall under the contract of, you know, Asa, right? Like now again, the whole point on how Asa became Yoru, right, is because of that moment where, you know, she did like kill Bucky, and then, you know, she went out with the student president or whatever, and, you know, that whole thing panned out, and that's how that happened. So, you know, we can effectively say more than not, right, that like because Denji saved Asa in that moment from like killing Bucky, that like now therefore Yoru will never meet Asa. Yeah. But then again, this is just. But we're asking too many what if questions because Naita is here instead of Makima, right? Like, okay, so Naita's here. but the horsemen then therefore have to exist. Is the Nostradamus prophecy still a thing? And someone pointed this out, and this is just me, like just me being me. Okay. Fiends cannot make contracts with humans. So how did Power make a contract with Denji? I guess we just forget the rules that like fiends can make contracts with humans. Only
it might not even. It might not be a real. I mean, Power is the one. The one that's the only excuse I would make is Power is the one character where I'd be like, she's just yapping. She's just saying shit. You know what I mean? Like I see what you're saying. I don't want to invalidate that. Sure. But that's the one character I'd be like. She could just be like, yeah, this is a contract. This fucking human doesn't know bullshit. Like,
because here's the thing. That is the least of my problems with that last chapter. That is the least of my problems with how the last chapter panned out.
I will say, like, I do kind of feel like there is some kind of, to answer because of like the Nostradamus prophecy, like Yoru we should have seen for sure. I will say, I guess like the one. I kind of, because this, I think you kind of already even said this. Like, I feel like the one reason it might not happen is because I guess whoever Pochita ate isn't gonna come back. But then, like you said, like how does Nayuta, how does Makima? I guess because Makima didn't get eaten by Pochita, right? She got eaten by Denji. So maybe is it different? Got eaten
by Denji, yeah.
Maybe it's different. Maybe Denji
again,
didn't erase.
If this is a reset, then that doesn't matter. It's nullified, right?
Well, everything I guess was eaten would still be gone, right? Everything like death would still be gone. Maki.
Okay. I see what you're saying, but okay, but hold on. If death is gone, then we're still back in square one, right? With what happened, right? Like death has to exist, and although. I think Pochita or someone said that, like, Kishibe, again, I'm not even here to talk about Kishibe, but where they're like, hey, Denji,
oh my God. It's so funny. I immediately thought about you. I'm like, this man's going to lose it. Kishibe never came back. Not even in the fucking, like, I would have been like, I know you were dying when he's like, let's go shake down our seniors. I'm like, all Miles needed was like, let's go shake down Kishibe for money. I'm like, and he would have like been on, he would have been like perfect ending, 10 out of 10. I got what he gave me what I wanted.
I know. God, now I lost my train of thought. What the hell was I trying to say? Kishibe. No. Yoru.
Something about Pochita and Kishibe, or you're saying something.
God, I lost my train of thought now. But that's
sorry.
No, it's fine. I think just real quickly with Kishibe, again, if 232 was just how things mapped out, I guess it really didn't matter, but that, and I don't really want to go too much back into the Chainsaw Man Church arc. That's one of the big problems, right? Even if we combine the torture Denji arc when he's in prison, because this is the thing you talked about, and my interpretation of Lil D is that her ultimate plan was consistently changing on the fly. You have to remember in the Falling Devil arc. No. Like that's how I'm taking it, right? At the Falling Devil arc, her plan was the real Justice Devil consume Asa and Yoru to turn the War Devil into an effigy, right? She says like, hey, my plan was to grab the Justice Devil, or she didn't say the Justice Devil at the time, but to grab this devil to consume Yoru so I can control her in the way that she does, Family later on with the fake Chainsaw Man, right?
Was it? I thought I might have to reread that. That was what I didn't reread.
No, dude, I will find the quote.
I thought the plan was from the aquarium arc was I'm going to power you guys up as much as I possibly can, both you and Denji and Yoru.
That's established in the middle of the Chainsaw Man Church arc. Like that was the new pivot, right? So she established the church because now that she couldn't get Yoru in the easiest of ways. Now I'm going to make the contracts with these 300,000 people from the church to make Denji stronger and therefore simultaneously make Yoru stronger, because when we fear Chainsaw Man, right, that can encourage him to come out, what Barum ends up saying, little at the sushi place, right? And War to become strong, because I need both War and Chainsaw Man to stop this Nostradamus prophecy. Yeah. At the time, we didn't know that Fami was Lil D all along, but she was changing the plans, but that's where there's some like pockets of, I don't want to say like plot holes, but this is where things become a little weird, because public safety doesn't necessarily know that at the time. public safety was trying to make Denji docile, because if they can control Denji that way emotionally with Nayata, then Denji, right, at the time, I don't know if they knew how to incite Denji from turning to the Black Chainsaw Man, but by at least keeping him docile via capturing Nayata, hey, don't turn into Chainsaw Man, because we're dealing with this problem with the Chainsaw Man church fanatics, right? When that doesn't map out, now this is where we go through the alley and the torture, prison, and then we lead up to the sushi restaurant. But Barham says clearly, hey, public safety is outside. They got guns. They're gonna maul you down, and I need you to turn into the Black Chainsaw Man. And again, when you go up into the aging devil arc, public safety's new plan now to combat the Nostradamus prophecy is not controlling Denji anymore, right? Like Yoshida still wants to do that, right? Like because Yoshida after the aging devil arc is like, hey Yoru, now that like you got Denji into like putty, right? Can you please turn him into a weapon to stop this prophecy? And she's like, yeah, no can do. I like taking care of Denji, blah 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 blah. But during the conflict of the aging devil arc, public safety's new agenda is we need Black Chainsaw Man to consume aging, because if we do, we don't die. So now if this Nostradamus prophecy happens, at least we'll be alive, and we can we'll see where we go. And that's where we get the screenshot I shared with you earlier, where the aging devil's like, hey, people don't turn into trees with my powers. They turn into trees by just simply existing. So what happens when they exist for an eternity? Even I don't know, right? So it seemed like that's so the plans were always consistently changing. But when we get to the final battle, as Lil D gets consumed by Pochita, right? That's where it falters. And again, that's a little bit of a miss for me, because like Lil D was just updating her plans all along, but it's hard to miss all that stuff if you don't do this reread, because it's very easy to miss. So I don't know if you found the quote. I can find it for you in the Falling Devil arc, where I think it's like at the very end of the Falling Devil arc.
Yeah.
She ends up telling Nayata the plans, right? Bear with me for a second. So chapter, I think it's maybe 131. Yeah. Okay. It's chapter 131. So let me find this.
Wow. 100 chapters. Look at that.
Return. How do you make devils barf? Okay, so Nayata talks to Lil D. Why are you after Denji and this girl? Sis, Nostradamus prophecy is coming true. The ultimate terror will soon descend on this world. If that happens, the age of humans will end, ushering in an age of devils, blah, 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 blah. Worst case scenario.
Yeah, I can turn the stars into my pawns, work with me, control with our strength combined. The age of devils may not arrive. Yeah.
Yeah, because she's like, what gives? You just tried to give her. My intention was only to starve war in that devil's belly. I can turn starved into my pawns. That was the initial plan. But then again, then what was the point in the aquarium? I don't know, because when we go to the beginning of the story, right? Now I'm jumping all over the place, right? She already had the plans in motion that people like Yuko was, I guess the standout character.
The Fire Devil contracts were already being made, yeah.
Correct. And I think at some point the Fire Devil had to have felt sympathy for one of the twins that died early on, right? So it's kind of right there. But then the Fire Devil,
because I think what that happened before that, right? Because I think the Fire Devil was like the little baby, like Pochita was like the little baby. They nursed it back, and then I guess it gave them the powers. And then I guess that's when the Chainsaw Man Church was beginning, because that's when the Fire Devil was like, oh, I started spreading and making contracts with more people, and I guess
correct. But I hate the answer of like, don't think too much, because I don't understand if the fake Chainsaw Man, right, got consumed by Lil D to be controlled. The fake Chainsaw Man made a contract with the Fire Devil. The Fire Devil was already on the side of Lil D. There should have been no qualms about the fake Chainsaw Man being subservient to Lil D, right? Like, I mean, of course he can have his own agency and fight for justice, et cetera, et cetera. But
that was the twin, right? The fake soul was the twin. That was the twin.
Correct.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Correct. But what I'm saying is,
and fake soul was trying to kill Death. Fake soul was trying to kill that Death.
Correct. But what I'm saying is, we already knew that kids were making contract with the Justice Devil in the beginning of part 2 when Yuko did the contract, etc. But it was never the Justice Devil. It was always the Fire Devil, right? And we get that big reveal at the end of the Chainsaw Man Church that, hey, 350,000 people made the contracts. The Fire Devil's super crazy, powerful, strong now. And, what a letdown that, okay, now we have a beefed up, Fire Devil and contributes nothing in the story beyond telling Denji, hey, you have 2 choices. Don't mess it up this time, So there's all that. But I mean, I've been rambling for too long, but
so I will say, like, so for like the fake Saw Man feels underwhelming to me. But for me, I guess
let's talk about that.
I will say, like, well, first of all, like I've seen so many people be like, what happened with fake Saw Man? And I just have to imagine that these are the people that just didn't read and they're just tuning into the final chapter, because like we clearly got an answer to fake Saw Man. It wasn't, in my opinion, a very satisfying, answer. But so like my interpretation of that, like, I guess, like, cause you're right. Like Fami and the Chainsaw Man Church were always working together in a sense. I guess like I could just say that like the Fire Devil was just seemed to be just an observer, right? Like he was just like, hey, I just wanted to say that like I don't want to fight you. I just want to say that like you're gonna have to make another decision. Don't fuck up. And like ultimately, because at the end of the day, ultimately what he believed, and this was always my gripe with the Fire Devil, where I'm like, fuck you, Fire Devil. Who the fuck are you on your high horse talking about telling me I have to make a decision? The Fire Devil was like, I granted all of these people powers to do whatever they wanted. So like I guess like you could argue that like the twin. Because the twin, I think when he gets introduced, he's trying to kill Famine because he thinks specifically she is the Death Devil. He goes, I'm trying to prevent the Nostradamus prophecy. That also makes sense why Fake Saw Man would save Denji and Asa in like hell back in the very beginning, and he's like, hey, don't worry, Chainsaw Man, I got your ass. Like I guess like you could consider them like autonomous, the twins at least, autonomous people. And then like that's why she had to kill and eat him, because he wasn't gonna answer, wasn't gonna listen. And I guess Fake Saw Man was necessary for creating the terror of Chainsaw Man again, right? To turn him into the Black Chainsaw Man.
Yeah, I think that just one of those executions that like
it
was so intriguing. I think if we had the fake Chainsaw Man just bits and pieces, just in the shadows during the Chainsaw Man Church, I think the reveal would have been better. Again, I just got to the point where Yoru and Denji are encountering the fake Chainsaw Man around chapter 200, 201. And it's funny, just rereading it again, I'm like, oh my God, dude, where were you this whole time? The last time we saw you was when you were in hell with the Falling Devil arc, saying like, hey, Denji, like, hey, you just got to escape. If you escape their territory, like you and Asa should be clear, right? And, I even think he changed his mind on the design, right? Because, of course, there's that infamous panel where, like, the fake Chainsaw Man has the longer chainsaws, right? Yeah. But he looks different than the final product of, what went on. Because some people were asking about that, like, are these one and the same? To me, I don't know if you read One Piece or not, but, you know, one of, like, the most powerful pirates, like Big Mom, right? Oda introduces her, like, in the silhouette that like, oh, this is what this character Big Mom looks like. But when we finally like get the dedicated arc and, we finally see what she looks like, years later, she's a whole different character.
Right.
I think that is what is going on here. I think Fujimoto had something in mind for like a grotesque looking Chainsaw Man, but then the final
kind of like Hikari, right? Where Hikari was introduced kind of like a little bit differently, and then when he actually gets revealed, he's completely a little different. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Dude, that would have been such a fun idea because, again, we did see like the early snippets of like Spider-Man in Chainsaw Man Part 2, right? Like the whole like Green Goblin, like pick one Spider-Man type of thing, right? Like you're going to save the car or you're going to save the kid, right? And then he's like, oh, I choose neither. I save the cat or whatever. So there's definitely parts where I remember a lot of people too are like, oh my God, this is kind of like the Venom to Spider-Man, type of storyline we'll get here. And that would be fun because, what does it mean to be a hero? and now
Yeah.
you got someone like being like the super hardcore fan, and now this is someone you're gonna have to take down, and this is like something that
It
you just
seemed
have to learn.
it seemed
Chainsaw Man.
like you said, it was almost like it's something that like it was like just the execution was poor, right? Because it's like almost like when you reread that fight and they're going at it, it's almost like you could tell what Fujimoto had intended with that confrontation, where Fake Saw Man's like, oh, like you save this person just because it's a woman, blah blah blah, like, and he's criticizing Denji because like at the end of the day, like he's meant to represent Chainsaw Man, what Chainsaw Man is supposed to be, not who Denji is. He's like the amalgamation of what everyone thought the superhero that Chainsaw Man was, right? He's the simulacrum.
Yeah.
You know, so like I like it's almost like I liked, and again, I don't know, I don't want to keep referencing other series, but like I don't know, with Jujutsu Kaisen, like with Maki's segment of the culling game, like I feel the same way, where I'm like, I understand writing wise what you were trying to do here. Personally, what you ended up putting together was not my favorite bit. I think you could have done this better, and that's kind of how I feel about.
Are you talking about when she was mid battle with
Sakurajima colony, not with when she's with Curse now, yeah.
Yeah. And she's going through that domain, and she gets another power boost, you know.
I'm like, I get what you were going for, but like this just doesn't hit. And for me personally, you know, I know a lot of people really do like that segment, and it's just like for me, it just kind of doesn't. I feel that same way about Fake Saw Man, because what else happens in the short little segment? Yoru randomly just gets that insane power buff, kind of, in my opinion, out of fucking nowhere, where they reinvent nuclear weapons. And the thing is, it's not fucking out of nowhere, which bothers me personally, because this is, again, where, like, Fujimoto, I know what you were trying to do, but frankly, it just doesn't fucking work. Where the whole, and this is honestly towards your point too, where like, right, like almost like right after the Fallen Devil, like you said, where the Chainsaw Man Church is riding kind of off of that hype, right, where the Fallen Devil caused so much damage to the world, the gravitational pull was all fucked up, and you have the TV, you know, shows every once in a while intersprints of how bad the world is and how we are at war and everything is fucked up. The one thing that Fujimoto does that I understand what he was trying to do and what he was criticizing about the world when he was writing it, where, oh my god, all this crazy shit is happening, but wow, life is just going on as normal. We're all still going to school, we're all still driving, going to work. And it's like, Fujimoto, I get what you're saying, but this makes your impact feel less crazy, because not for nothing, that's why you forget what kind of state the world is in. And when these things happen, it feels so out of place. Like, realistically, story-wise, I understand that that Fujimoto was building up the world to the point where we probably would reinvent nuclear weapons because war is just getting that bad. But when you have whole sections of the story where Fami is planning to go to the school festival with her student friends, I'm like, I don't feel like the world is on fire right now. I don't feel like the world. It's like there's two jarring perspectives of Denji and Asa are like running through the street and like killing Chainsaw Man people, and Asa is just fucking full on blowing up skyscrapers and just shooting finger bangs at the fucking sun. But at the same time, people are going to school. It's like, Fujimoto, this doesn't work. It's like, I understand what you're saying, but this doesn't work.
Yeah. Or you're trying to reinforce this idea that I already got within the arc, right? Like, don't make me feel like an idiot. Again, I just read this. So this was shortly after the Prison Break arc, where they successfully grab Denji, and it's the chapter when Katana Man like hits him in the nuts. It's Haruka is watching TV, and he's talking with Kobeni's relative.
They're not even talking about us prison breaking. Yeah,
they're not talking about us like, hey, like we're like the most wanted kids right now in this country. You know, the world is on fire, and for people to diffuse the situation by just pretending nothing is happening is a little wild. So like, you understand what Haruka is like trying to say, because I'm on his side completely, and he's laughing at it all because it's like, am I mad for thinking that like this is not insane, you know? And is that also like the political commentary? Because, you know, the Chainsaw Man Church was just a very politically
100%.
charged.
And that's what I kind of mean.
Right?
Like the themes, I understand what you're saying. Like where like he's criticizing like social media today and how like we have such a fast cycle where crazy shit happens and then we're on to the next thing almost immediately the next day. Everyone's talking about something different and we're moved on. Like I get that, but like your execution in the story, like it's jarring in a sense where you have people going to the school festival in one segment and then the very next it's the world is on so much fire that we reinvented nuclear weapons and everyone's dying. And I'm like, I don't feel that though. I don't feel the stakes of what you're building up because everything feels like everything's normal. It's like I understand your commentary. I even could appreciate your commentary personally, but it just doesn't work for the story.
That's why but again, that's why those two little mini arcs that torture Denji in the prison break does not make sense, because when Yoru got her power amp, right? Like she's fighting Yoshida like cuts off one of her arms and then he's like, oh, he escaped. But like, look at me, I'm like strong. She had like the room 606 sword or whatever. Yeah. And again, the Chainsaw Man Church ended by saying, Nayata saying like, oh, I know Lil Sis like plan right now. It's to make Chainsaw Man strong and war strong to fight this Nostradamus prophecy from happening. And then again, we go from the prison break to like people like, again, Denji sees people on the train station like injured and hurt. And of course, like the buildings are, in shambles, but it's still like they're still trying to play off that like, oh yeah, things are bad, but they're also okay. That we should not be at that point anymore. Like we should see people trying to leave Tokyo. We need to see more destruction. And, that's what I'm saying. So when Katana Man even suggests like, hey, Denji, let's go to a brothel and blah, blah, blah. It just like, how is any of that happening when we should be seeing what you just finished climaxing, no pun intended, right? To the Chainsaw Man Church, to the Chainsaw Man Church. Okay, Yoru's strong, Denji's strong, Now, when Lil D is like, yeah, I want to go to the school festival again, we don't know that she was Lil D, right? Like leading up to, the reveal of, the real Fammy and the fake Chainsaw Man. But yeah, that's one of those things where like Yoshida and, oh my God, what's her name? Yuko?
Fumiko.
No, not Yuko. Fumiko are just like, seriously, you're going to go to school right now instead of like this cataclysmic event that's going to happen in like 6 months, because now at that point in the story they're like, this prophecy is going to happen.
We're getting super close, guys.
yeah. And again, but when we know that the reveal that Lil D was Lil D all along, that's this is where it gets weird, right? Because like, what's the true Nostradamus prophecy? And this is the part where like I really wish I would have finished the series, but I think just tell me if I'm right? I think Lil D confirms the Nostradamus prophecy is a never-ending war that like Yoru's trying to create. Like that's the initial prophet. No, that's not the prophecy.
No. So the Nostradamus prophecy was the apocalypse. So basically, death is like I don't have a choice. At some point in time, my powers is going to go off and everything is fucked. Go off. And I actually like humanity. I like life, but I don't have a choice. I'm going to just blow. And then Yoru's whole idea was, okay, well, I can have Chainsaw Man eat death, and then that's my plan, is to do the never-ending war. And that's Asa's like, it's even worse than the apocalypse.
Gotcha. Yeah. So that's the thing. See, but you put yourself in the corner, when we don't get any resolution with that, right? And God, man, I praised you a while back where it's like, okay, now this is where Fammy's going to kick in and she's going to do something about these bugs and all that stuff. Dude, that's what I'm saying. It's like 232, it's just such a weird chapter, because if that was always the conclusion, why did you take us on this wild goose chase? Like the story could have been way more tame. It could have been way shorter, right? And again, it's that last chapter, it would have been way softer of a blow for me to be like, okay, that's Chainsaw Man, sure. But like you up the stakes. You focus on a second protagonist, if not the protagonist, within Asa Mitaka. And, you don't give us closures on these things, right? Yeah. Of course, guys, I understand that we don't have to have every single thing pointed out and given answers on. That's fine. Like almost I've accepted that just most media now that I consume. Hey, we're not going to get all the answers. And you know what? Like, let's just actually talk about that real quickly. Because one of the big questions I heard a lot of people talk about was, okay, chainsaws exist in this world.
Yeah.
Pochita was never the chainsaw devil. You know, it's so crazy how of all the things I have problems with, I've accepted a long time ago that we were never getting that answer. You know, I was optimistic during the aging devil arc because that's when, again, why does Fujimoto bring that idea that the aging devil says about like turning into trees? And again, the metaphor of chainsaws, cutting down trees, etc. And we see Denji do it with an axe. You know, so it's just like, okay, there's something coming, and we don't get it. How do you feel about that? That we don't get the reveal of Pochita's devil ability?
I feel the
like
same.
the
I
truth
feel
of
the
what he
same
is.
kind of way where it's like I feel like this is kind of something that like. Again, I'm glad that you felt like this could have been left ambiguous and you would have liked us to ponder this, but it doesn't work for the type of story that you were writing. Like I would have liked to have known what devil, or at least have a little bit more pushing in the right direction of being able to figure it out, right? You don't have to flat out to have a panel of Pochita being like, I'm this devil, but like at least like again, if again, let's just say that like my crazy theory was right and like the Asian devil lore is like quote unquote pointing to Pochita potentially as someone that was normal and they ascended to be a devil and that's why they're capable of doing things that no other devils can do. Again, is that the case? No, probably not. But that's just like a random thing that I can interpret. Even if I was to say that is correct, I would have liked towards the end to have even gotten a little bit more of a hint that I was right about that, right? Like again, just like a little snippet here and there. It's one of those things where, like, I like that we got somewhat of a like quote unquote like confirmation, if you can even call it that. Like Pochita wasn't the Chainsaw Man devil. Like there is like no longer, there's not a debate about that anymore. I saw plenty of people in my comment section still tell me and argue with me that like no, like chainsaws are still a thing. Like I guess it comes down to, I guess to bounce a question back to you. Do you think Pochita still exists? Because we got that one panel of like the Pochita heart thumping. I personally, I don't know what that could be. Like for me, like I think like you could definitely see that as like, oh, Pochita is still alive. He just doesn't know. But I could also see that as like just like the, you know, like a spiritual thing, right? Like it's not terribly, you know, like, again, it's one of those movie things where it's like, whoa, oh my god, like the end of a scene of the movie and like the credits is like someone dead and it's like
I was gonna
the finger moves at the last second and then credits. It's like
I was gonna say the Inception, like was the spinner still spinning or did it like stop at the end?
Exactly. I could see that. Yeah. So what do you think about that? Like, what's your opinion? What's your take?
So okay. The problem, let me give you the short answer. I'm kind of on that Inception ending moment. Like, was that really his heart in the moment? Or was that just like, again, just like even through all the crazy shit, everything is retcon, all this stuff, you know, we get a soft reboot. The spirit of Pochita, despite Denji not remembering who Pochita is or, you know, just all that stuff, but like there's just still something there.
The body,
right? Like
the body remembers. That's kind of like when like Asa and Denji hug, you know, they're like, I don't know you, but I feel like
but there's something there. Yeah. I like that idea. Like this was not Pochita's heart, like Denji's heart is not Pochita. This was just like a spiritual like nod. And I think that's beautiful when you look at it that way. Okay. Now, the long-winded answer is, as I mentioned earlier, that last chapter just leaves up way too much shit for interpretation. And that's why that's one of those things I cannot really have a full definitive answer for you.
Yeah.
Because if we start talking about whether or not that was Pochita, I still come back to I'm more annoyed that Makima's here or that Nayata's here over Makima, because then that implies that Makima had to have existed. You know, again, my thing, right? Warzaki. I immediately just have more of a problem with those things than is this Pochita or is this not Pochita? Because at that point now, again, the hug was important, right? Like Asa and Denji, like, you know, when he embraced her, he's like, oh my God, something's there. Again, I like those open-ended things, right? That's fun. That's the Inception ending. Like, oh, do they know each other, but do they not know each other, right? Like, because we know, right? But when you just start critically thinking about like how this chapter is, sure, Denji and Power has like this new relationship and this new dynamic, but it's not the dynamic they had in part one, right? Like, even if they're friends in this universe, this is still kind of fucked up that like Power made a contract with Denji. And although they're friends, she has full control over him instead of Makima. Is that better? I suppose, yeah. Like, I agree, but I still think that's not really a great ending for Denji.
I'm glad
that's
you brought
kind of
that up.
fucked.
I'll let you
like
finish,
that,
but I'm glad you brought that up. That's where I want to go next.
That's not necessarily a good ending, you know? Okay, like Kishibe, oh, that's where I was trying to go with earlier. Kishibe is like, oh, Denji would be a great devil hunter because like he's insane and like, you know, he can just like fight devils with, you know, no filter, blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, but that's assuming he can resurrect himself because he's contracted with Pochita. You can't have that mindset and then get slashed or decapitated by a devil because, spoiler, you're not going to come back.
Yeah.
You die, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like the entire battle with the Eternity Devil from part one, yeah, Denji lost his mind. He's crazy. And, you know, that's why the Eternity Devil gave up. Okay, guess what? You don't have a contract with the most powerful or one of the most powerful devils in the universe. So you being a public safety devil hunter, how's that a better life? You're actually more at risk of dying in this new universe way quicker than where we were, you know.
Isn't that what Pochita said from the beginning? Hey, he's got a mind that finds heaven and hell or whatever the fuck he said.
you know, like that's what I'm saying. It's like, I don't understand how people, again, are defending that stuff. It's like you realize Denji's life, yes, from this specific moment and these little montages, Denji's life does seem better. But I would argue his life was also good at the end of defeating Makima prior to us meeting Ata, right?
You wanna watch me defend it? I'm gonna defend it right now. I'm gonna defend it because I actually think of all the story beats that I can complain about, I actually think that I like the ending for Denji. Like, if this was the place that if this is the final part of Chainsaw Man, I'm personally I like this being the last place that I can leave Denji. And the reason I'll tell you is why is because, like, I think, for one, to be completely honest with you, this world, frankly, trash, garbage. No matter what you're doing in the Chainsaw Man world, you're kind of fucked no matter what, right? Like, Denji's gonna get cooked as a devil hunter. He's gonna get cooked sitting at home eating his meal when a devil runs through his building and crashes through it. You know what I mean? So that's a dumb defense. I'm not done, but either way, but like I think that's like for me, like, that's what I imagine it is like. I feel like a lot of times, like, not you specifically, I'm going to generalize when I say like people, but I feel like a lot of times, like, people are always like, oh, like Denji like didn't get the happy ending, and I think to myself, like, what is a happy ending for Denji truly? Like, is it the happy ending where he ends up as like the leader of the Yakuza gang and he's got all the women he could ever want and like he's just like a pimp and a criminal, a drug lord, whatever the fuck? Or like is it a world where like he can live like the closest thing to a normal life with like a friend that like he had no power and he's somewhat, because if you really think about it, Denji from the very beginning thought he was living the best life he could ever live just because he got 2 meals a day and he had a place to sleep, like he got jam with butter on it. Like, at the end of the day, like, I feel like when people mention that Denji was happy with Nayuta, I'm glad that I reread the series to a degree, because like I feel like one thing that I completely forgot even happened is like the moment where they do kind of turn heel on Nayuta a little bit. Do you remember what I'm talking about?
Yeah, it's during like the fire scene or whatever.
Yeah,
like,
exactly. Where they reveal that like Nayuta was like already aware of Makima, was already aware of what she did, and was like, hey, you know what? Like, if this was my path, I'm gonna follow this path and do this to figure out who I actually am. So like at the end of the day, like for
she tries recruiting Denji. She's like, just be a devil. Like, that's the impulse that you're feeling, right? Because he at that point, like, that's when he was already restrained from being Chainsaw Man. They're like, hey, like, you want to be a devil? Like, dude, life would just be so much easier.
Exactly.
Like, join my side. I loved what they were doing there at that moment. Yeah. Go ahead.
And I think and I think a lot of people I saw a lot of people be like, oh, like, you really think Denji wasn't happy with Nayuta? No, he says he's not. He says he's not happy with Nayuta. I mean, like, you could argue that, like, yes, like, is that realistically probably like the happiest life that he should have had? He had a little sister, he had, you know, a normal life, he went to high school, he had whatever, like, yes. But at the end of the day, this motherfucker was bored. And like, I feel like why Denji becoming a devil hunter is like the right ending for him is because, like, I guess at the end of the day, like, yeah, like, Denji, like, honestly, to go back to what you said, like, Denji, even without Pochita, is a crazy motherfucker. Like, he is still the same Denji. I would argue personally, like, I know you said a long time ago, because we've yapped a lot, but you said a long time ago that, like, you don't, you're not a believer in the fact that this is the Denji that got all of the character development of part 2. I would actually personally disagree to a certain degree, because obviously he doesn't have all of the memories, right? But, like, I feel like I saw a take that I really, really liked. I'm actually going to pull it up here. And this isn't my opinion, so this is me just taking someone else's words and be like, I think that sounds nice. I'm going to take that opinion, and now this is mine. But, like, I did like it because it gives some level of closure with, like, the Fire Devil as well, right? Like, when Denji is hunting the devil and he's hunting after Bucky, and he's chasing after Asa. The Denji from the very original story, from the very beginning, would have done exactly what Denji did in part 2. He would have fucking killed Asa to get to Bucky, or do something where he prioritized killing Bucky. But instead, Denji drops the chainsaw and he saves Asa and lets Bucky live. And, like, whether or not this is what Fujimoto intended, I do like the idea of, like, that could have been the choice that the Fire Devil was talking about. Like, you are going to have the exact same choice put in front of you where you can choose to, you know, be Chainsaw Man and not give a fuck about saving people, or you can save someone. Don't make that mistake again. And it is, I would say, like, again, whether we think Denji deserves all of his development, I do think the scene of him dropping the chainsaw to save her was, like, meant to imply that, like, Denji is different. Like, he may not have, like, again, have all the same memories, and, like, may be still back to square one, but there are still pieces of part 2 that have stayed within him and have changed him as to who he is, even if he subconsciously, even if he doesn't realize it. And, like, I kind of like the idea. It kind of brings up the idea of, like, he never needed Pochita to be Chainsaw Man. He never needed Pochita to be who he always thought, and that's something that he focuses on so much in part 2, right? I want to be Chainsaw Man. I can't because I want to be Chainsaw Man, when realistically you could have always been Chainsaw Man from the beginning, but you thought you relied so much on Pochita. Again, I'm you know,
no,
coping a little bit, but I did like that take.
So man, no, it's okay. Now I gotta go to 231. This is, I like that take. However, because we are now established in what I personally believe is just a new retconned world, and this is a brand new Denji.
Forget the timeline shenanigans. Forget it.
Right? I'm just saying, that's what I choose to believe with this chapter, because Fujimoto doesn't have that much time. If there was any place for you to tell me what you just said, it was happening in this moment. That's why I give it a pass. That's why when you say it to me, I'm not going to argue, because I believe that too. He could have killed that devil, but he chose not to. So there's something more important that he chose over being Chainsaw Man, and that was, like, to beat Denji, right? And I hear a lot of people do the callback to Reze, and boy, we'll talk about Reze later, right? About, like, hey, why does everyone want Chainsaw Man's heart and not my heart, right? Here we go. This is where we get, like, a beautiful full circle moment. And this is where Denji chooses to drop the ego, not kill Bucky, and save Asa. And in tandem, you know, does a lot more for Asa in this moment.
I also thought it was important, just to add on to, I don't want to cut you off, but that Denji doesn't do anything, like, he's not like horny or perverted or anything when they hug either. He's like, oh, my bad, I'm sorry. Like, he's completely normal about the interaction as well, too.
Correct. And I think why is that? Because when we go earlier in the chapter, right, like he has that moment where it's like, hey, well, before I die, at least I got to see like this naked chick, right, which is power. And then we just fast forward to Denji and Power, being public safety devil hunters, and we don't know how much the passage of time from Denji and Power.
I presume it's a
to
long
the
amount of time, right? Because Asa tripping over Bucky would have happened after everything in part one, quote unquote. Whether part one happens the same or not, I feel like that time would still be the same, right?
Correct. So, for me, in this alternate timeline, but this is what's problematic is the passage of time within this chapter, because now I'm going to assume, right, if Aki's not in this timeline, or he is, but he's not, in their lives, that's fine. But what I'm trying to get at is, because there's also no Makima, Denji can quickly learn that like the relationship with Power is not one of like, of like a sexual desire, right? Like you probably learned real quick, like in the beginning, like, oh, maybe he thought about Power that way because like, hey, he saw her naked in the zombie devil moment. But then through the passage of time in this montage where they're public safety devil hunters, again, is it 2 weeks? Is it 5 months?
God, what happened to my series, bro? You reminded me of that bathtub scene with Power and Denji, and I'm like, that's one of my favorite fucking moments when he's like, like
for sure. But like,
fucking A.
He grew so much in that moment because of like what happened, right? With Reze in the International Assassins, in the Darkness Devil, and where he's learning like, oh my God, this moment kind of feels right. So I think I kind of want to kiss Power, but then like Power like quickly cuts it off. And then is like, oh, you know what? But then he takes that role of being a caretaker instead, and realizes shortly within that, it was the beginning of the Gun Devil arc that like, hey, I care about Power, but not in this sexual way, right? Like he has that epiphany. So again, I'm not saying what you're saying is wrong, because I think that's a beautiful moment. Dropping the chainsaw, leading into Asa. He's not doing it because he's horny. He's doing it because it just seems like the right thing to do, more so than, going after Bucky, which is just inconsequential because we know how weak he is, right? So, I don't know how many
new
times
Denji is Kishibe level. Don't downplay him like that.
Yeah. But that's what I'm saying. I can't disprove what you're saying, because like I like that idea too.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a perspective.
Did he collect
it's an interpretation.
his memories? Did he not? This is one of the problems. And again, a get out of jail free card that Fujimoto presented, because there's everything perfect in this chapter to make especially the enthusiasts on why the series as a whole is beautiful, because he put things to make it hard to dispute or debunk, right? Like I can't really prove those things in the same way people are saying, oh, this is why Knights is here instead of Makima, or why Aki's not here. It's like, no, those are more far-fetched, but Fujimoto leaves us all in a situation where, well, I can't really disprove what you're saying, but you equally cannot disprove what I'm saying as well. So if we just take the chapter face value, this moment is so beautiful here. And I've heard a lot of people say this is their favorite page, right? Like this is my favorite page when Denji grabs Asa. Like, dude, this is so beautiful. In the same way I was telling you, Pochita hugged Denji in 231. Like this is a very beautiful thing here. And to not open too much of a, can of worms again and that's why like this whole thing of like, okay, if this is how you want to close Asa's story, that's fine. But like, dude, Yoru was equally involved in this. And I'm not saying I needed Yoru in this last chapter, but I needed some like closure between the two of them.
Yes. What we got was not it. To what? Because like now having everything ended, right? Now that the story is officially over, what the fuck even was the point of their final conversation? Do you know what I mean? Like I'm like, okay, this is like I felt like that needed to be explored more, right? Like it's almost like I don't know, maybe I'm dumb. I don't understand what was trying to be it like implied through that conversation. Like I can kind of get it, but like it's not like again, I'm kind of like, okay,
it's never really spelled out, and I think that's one of those moments that had to be spelled out, right? Like, or like you were saying, like lead us in that direction, so most people can just insinuate that like opinion that Yoru was saying, right? Like, hey, like, you know, when I transformed into that bird a long time ago, the bird felt bad that it ate the worm. I thought that was such a stupid thing, and now like here I am, you know, living it through you and all these experiences. And although she says, and they have it all in bold, that like I still was always a devil at heart, but she still chose to, you know, swerve from the bird in that motorcycle moment. So clearly she learned and she grew as a person. And again, I think that was an important conversation. Even though she was spelling it out to Asa, we don't get a full closure in that moment. And that is just really like, again, and this is where people bring up the fucking Big Lebowski thing. You cannot say it was pointless if we spent most of the story on these two people.
Yeah,
right? Even if
we
this was
needed a
Denji's story
conclusion
towards the end, we needed a conclusion to that, and that's a huge misstep. Right.
100%. I completely agree.
Yeah. Like this goes way beyond the Reze. This goes way beyond the Keisha based stuff. It's like fine, right? Like, but this was something very established, and you don't give us closure with that. That's a huge misstep.
Yoru ended up being like overall, I think she was like one of my favorite characters. Honestly, she was really cool. She was fun. I loved her development, especially in that final battle when she's like, I realized the true power is friendship, and I'm like, this actually fucking makes so much sense for her character. Because like I even rereading it, I'm like, this hits even harder because like, you watch her lose in that first, technically, right? She was about to win, I think, but then the aging devil interrupts it. But like, you watch her where she sacrifices her children and then she doesn't come out on top. But then the second time when she fights, she's like, actually, I've learned that I should prioritize my bonds. I should prioritize the people. I'm like, this makes sense for your character that like you would make. And then again, it's like,
they're growing.
I'm glad that you gave us this development, but where the fuck did it go? Where the fuck did it go? And like, Yoru was probably my biggest disappointment. I can really excuse almost everything else. I think Yoru was the biggest disappointment for me. Like, it's so funny to me because like the reset, I think, is my least. I could care less. I think the reset is completely fine. I think the reset is completely fine. And the Nayuta, little weird. But I can excuse that for ending purposes. This is like, you want, I understand. You wanted to make everything happy. I get it.
I have to interject. That's why we needed one more chapter. Similar when Sukuna was talking with, oh my God, what's her name? Arame, the boy girl, the one with the ice powers. I forgot her name.
Arame,
yeah. Where they're basically talking like in this like pocket little like what do you call it, oh my God, not like limbo, like in this limbo stage. Dude, you said it earlier, we needed a conversation of like, you know, it would have been interesting just to see Pochita talk with Yoru, just to talk, just to hash
that would have been cool too.
That would have been, dude, because that would have covered the problems with 232 effectively, right? Again, the chapter's not bad, but Yoru was so pivotal in this story. We needed closure with her. I don't care if it was half a page or just a page. We needed something with her there. You know, it's a shame, man. It's a shame because
she just dies off screen. Like, that's the real off screen death right there. That's the real character that got off screen. We didn't hear from her ever again. That was it.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy when you think about it. Again, I only got up to chapter 200 before the video, but like, dude, it truly is abrupt how we got the conclusion of Denji and Yoru's battle. They're gonna get laid. The bugs came out of nowhere, and again, there was something there. There was something there. I'm telling you, you know, that's why when I talked about the chapter yesterday, this reads like fanfic to me, because this is like, let's self-insert Naita in here and like Asa, but like Power's back because we all love Power. And again, and he drops the chainsaw, etc. It just like, dude, it's a fine chapter, but it felt like fanfic. And the chapter rubbed me the wrong way in the beginning when I read it. You know, I really had to sit with it after 24 hours. And I'm like, now I've accepted that this is fine. But dude, as everyone said, even one chapter of just tying up some loose ends just would have done so much more for the conclusion of part 2, but the series overall. And I guess maybe if you don't have something else you wanted to bring up with me, is like, how do you feel that not only is this the end of part 2, but like this is the legacy of Chainsaw Man?
Uh, um, I will say I
Before
don't.
we talk about a part 3.
Yeah. I don't think it's as bad as some people are saying. Like I've seen some people be like, it's first of all, I don't think Attack on Titan has a bad ending, but I've seen some people be like, oh, this is the new Attack on Titan ending, like it ruined everything. I'm like, I don't think it ruins the story for me. Personally, I said it in my review, I think, where it's something very similar to like the best time I never want to have again. I don't think I would call it the best time, but I think Chainsaw Man Part 2 is one of those things where like, am I glad that I got it and I'm glad that it was a part of my weekly experience and I was able to read it and the story? Yeah, I think so. I think overall I can say my experience with it was enjoyable. The ending was a little wonky, but does that besmirch everything for me? No, it personally doesn't. I think some people it will for sure. This is I even said this when 231 first came out, and I was talking to Jessie, my editor, and I said it to her the moment that we were kind of talking and kind of going over our thoughts about the ending. Because at that point we knew it was ending, right? So like we were just talking about it, and I remember I said like I know this is going to be a controversy. Like no matter what you can say and what interpretations you can make, what you can add to it, as you said, like how you can explain away Nayuta, how you can explain away power, how you can explain away because you can come up with multiple different things to explain it all away. At the end of the day, I can't argue with someone that says that they don't like this ending and they feel like it sucked. Like I feel like I can't take that opinion away. Like not that I can take someone's opinion away, but you get what I mean. Like I feel like with Modulo, when I was talking with people that didn't like it, like I feel like I had much more like, okay, I feel like you kind of just really this might not have been a story for you. Whereas this, I'm like, this could have been the story for you, but the ending just doesn't work for you. And I completely I feel like when you compare this to part one is so much more of a tight knit, overall enjoyable story that I could, at the end of chapter 97, whatever it is, if that's where it ended and we never got a part 2, that's fine. I would have been completely okay with that entirely. Whatever questions were left unanswered, completely okay with that. But like you said, the amount of cans of worms that were opened in part 2 to the amount of cans of worms that were actually gotten to the bottom of was just not satisfying. There may have been like one or two questions you may have still had. Oh, what devil's Pochita? Why can he still erase things? All this. There might have been a couple things here or there, and at the end of part 1 that you can just, again, it is what it is. They don't need to be explained. Part 2, I feel like so much more important stuff was just left on the cutting room floor and not put in. That was too important. Again, like I will harp on it to the day I die. Like that we needed a conclusion to the Nostradamus prophecy. That was the whole fucking point of the entire part 2 story. We needed a conclusion to Asa. We needed so many things that we just did not get. And no matter what way you look at it, you can't make that a satisfying ending. You just can't. Mm-hmm. But I don't think it ruins to answer your question, I don't think it ruins the legacy for me personally. Yeah. And I feel like when the anime goes out, people will still be, it'll be fine. It'll be okay.
What
anime nowadays has a good fucking ending? You know what I mean? The fucking Naruto, Bleach.
Sure.
I feel like half these motherfuckers reading Chainsaw Man wouldn't survive The Sopranos if they were watching it. You know what I mean? Like,
of course. Yeah. This is, we spent a good chunk of the last stream discussing the implications when we saw the shed.
Yes.
Because, there's still now, if I wrote 232 and my fanfic was manifested, right? Like you said, hey, we have to end this in 32 pages, and Robert, or Miles, you write 232. How would I do it? I think I would have done one of those. I think it was like Evangelion, right? At the end of like JoJo Part 6, right? Like, who's the one person that remembered the entire events? It was like that little kid with the baseball hat, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Have Denji remember all of that shit, right? And now he's in this timeline where he's meeting Power for the first time and meeting Asa. And it's so heartbreaking. But now he got all of this shit and all these memories and insights, and now he has a chance to make it right? And not to say he didn't do it in 232, but we spent so much time on like, do we go back, like way back to the Zombie Devil arc, or is Pochita just erased, but like everything, as a result, now the Nostradamus prophecy was prevented, and now we have this new life with Denji and Asa, right? Like, and even Asa is still remembering, what happened, right? Because I think for me, and this is like the part I'm having a tough pill swallowing, is that like, even if I say, okay, part 1 and part 2 is negated, To me, this is just a new timeline where like this is not my Denji and this is not my power, this is not my Nayata and this is not my Asa. These are brand new characters to me, you know. And look, and from how 232 played out, it seemed like yes, Denji as of now is living a better life. But then when I think about all of these moments from part 1 and part 2, how long is Denji going to survive in this new universe? I don't know. Is he going to have, you know, this love with Asa? You know, I hope so. And, you know, is the heart that we saw of Pochita never truly gone? I kind of want that too. But, you know, this is not my power. And again, this is just not my Denji, assuming this is a reset. Or if there are bits and pieces of Denji, right? There's still lots of stuff wiped away. And, you know, just rereading the Aging Devil arc when Denji, again, dealing with all of that bullshit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, to me, the Aging Devil arc, when he was saying, hey, but there's still girls and there's still grub and I can still form a new family. To me, I think I love that moment that like, yeah, dude, we got this in part 1. But even with all of this shit in part 2, where so many people would have faltered, he still had the mental fortitude. Again, you know, Denji, like the lovable idiot, to come up to that conclusion. I love that for his character. And to me, you know, when we get this reset, if this is a reset, I'm interpreting it as a reset. We lose that, you know, and I don't like that, you know. So it's really hard to critique the final chapter because it's like, yeah, it's a serviceable chapter. But to me, I think you just kind of negate a lot of the character development that he went through. Because like this new Denji didn't go through all those fucking crazy, you know, hiccups. So it's I don't know. That's kind of how I feel. You know,
do you think there could ever be a world in which this ending was okay for you? Like where everything does get reset, but you're like, you know what, this makes sense.
Yeah, this is what I was saying earlier with the Game of Thrones thing, right? Like if these are the conclusion of these characters. I'm okay if this is the direction you're taking us, but the how we got there, how abrupt it was, just like season 8 of Game of Thrones. This is where it's leaving a bad taste in my mouth.
My question should be, what is that? What is that? Like if you could visualize it, like what is that missing piece for you? Like in there, like what are those missing pieces, those missing story beats that would satisfy this, that would make this a more fulfilled, more fleshed out ending for you? Because I know, like I said, I know mine is like the Death Devil kind of conclusion. Everything. I'm just curious, like if you can think of like anything that would like, you know what, if I got this, it'd be better.
Yeah. I mean, this is gonna sound weird. We talked about it earlier, right? Like, you know, I'm not saying Pochita necessarily had to talk with Yoru, but like Yoru talk with someone in like this limbo.
So we agree on that one. Pretty much the exact same thing.
Yeah. We agree on that part. You know, I swear, dude, it's guys. Kishibe had to be somewhere in this story. Kishibe would have prevented, I think, would have interjected at some point at the climax of the Chainsaw Man Church, especially during the Prison Break arc. There's no fucking shot that someone like, because this is the thing, Quan Chi says it in the Prison Break arc. I have an old friend who told me not to mess with that guy. He's still fucking around. Yeah. He's still somewhere here. He's still here. And we actually, dude, I actually forgot how much of a fucking badass Quan Chi is. When she's grabbing Fumiko and Denji and Naita, like escaping like during the rides, like bro, she's so fucking OP. Like, dude, she jumps from a ledge and mid fall, she just bites Fumiko to regain blood because she knows her legs are gonna crack, immediately regenerates, and then decapitates more of these people as she's running. It's like, bro, it's insane. Yeah. I think Kishibe being in the story, it just like, dude, see, and this is the thing, there's just too many things interjected because I just believe Kishibe would have been like, what the fuck is going on with public safety right now? Like this, and that's the other thing.
Especially when they were like understaffed towards the end and they were all fucked. It's like, you know.
That's what I'm saying. And then this is where, just so we can get this out of the way too, the thing with Reze is that you showed us all 6 of the hybrids. You showed us all 6 of the hybrids. Again, I just needed one fucking line with each Kishibe and Reze. He's in fucking China. He died. Reze's in Soviet Union. That's fine. Because let's think about this. If Reze was in the story, the dynamic between Denji and Asa would have been way fucking altered, because now there's like someone he remembers loving, right? We see that in the Aging Devil arc. Oh my God. Like love. I remember like fucking like the bitterness, my first love. And you show us a panel of Reze. I think if I were to rewrite this, we have the hybrids at some point, right? Give us the Fujimoto dark twisted ending that the hybrids become weapons for Yoru, right? Mm-hmm. She consumes them, or like she defeats them, and as a result, right, like, you know, when she defeats them, they become hers. There you go. So now you up the stakes of like this final battle between Denji and Yoru, but now she has all the arsenals of the weapons at her disposal. And again, and now if that's how Reze and the hybrids die, like I'm okay with that, right? Because now there's no like love triangle anymore. Not to say like we needed to delve too much into that. And then give us who Yoshida was talking to, right? Like Yoshida is this POV of the public safety guy we're following over the course of the story. And in the beginning, he says, you know, I had a screenshot like, hey, I work for a secret organization. You know, we didn't know what that was at the beginning. It just turned out to be public safety. But to me, I'm just like, why are you saying that to Denji when Denji clearly knows who public safety is? But if Denji's stupid, then you can say, hey, I'm just working for an organization, and that's the end of that, right? But the agenda of public safety, I wish we could have gone somewhere more concrete, because again, I think this is where Fujimoto probably had a plan, and then he would just kind of bouncing everywhere. And again, this is why I'm saying like, no. You know, Fami clearly had different plans in the Falling Devil arc to control Yoru, and then said, okay, well, that didn't work, so now let me start the Chainsaw Man Church. And then at some point simultaneously, although public safety and Fami are still working against each other, they're still kind of doing the same thing, right? Like public safety now just wants the aging devil to be consumed so they can live in this new age of devils. And, you know, Lil D is still trying to make Yoru and Denji as strong as they can, you know? And, you know, when you get to the fake Chainsaw Man and Fami, right? Like, hey, cause this abyss of terror, right? It's like inciting the acceleration of this prophecy from manifesting, right? But that's where I would have gone with this story, and that's a long-winded way to say, you know, that's where I think 232 didn't necessarily have to happen, because I still believe when I was rereading this story that we actually could have got a conclusion similar to part one. I think there could have been a way softer landing than you just saying the conclusion that Pochita got to. Because I like what we got with 231 when Pochita had that conclusion, right? I think that's what I saw a lot of people misinterpret, that Pochita ultimately consumed himself because he lived his dream and all that stuff, but he was the common denominator to Denji's suffering.
Yeah.
You know, that's what I wholeheartedly believe. And, you know, I think that's kind of some of the pockets and issues I have with part two is that, like, okay, Denji turned into Chainsaw Man when he had the chance to escape with the fire burning, right? And could have escaped with Naita, right? But because he selfishly chose to be Chainsaw Man in that moment, therefore Naita dies. I like that. But many of the parts prior to that, Denji was just living his life in school, you know? And it was like Yoru making his life difficult. It was Lil D making his life difficult. It was Yoshida and public safety making his life difficult, right? Like, you know, like all this suffering Denji went through. Well,
because he was Chainsaw Man, right?
And yeah, but that's what I'm trying to get at, right? Like, so you can say Chainsaw Man is the common denominator, but there's many moments where, like, hey man, Denji's just trying to fucking live his life, dude. You know, yeah, of course there's some parts in the beginning where it's like, hey, he wants to be known. He wants girls to give him his number because he's a superhero. He's riding on high from the end of part one.
Yeah.
But you know, but a lot of stuff gets in his way, and you know, we get what we ended up getting. So yeah, man, that's that's where I would have gone with the story. I just think, dude, it's dude. I know it's a meme now. I think Kishibe was too important to this story, and you cannot tell me at the end of part one that he would not have altered this story. if he was in it.
Well,
Like,
I definitely agree. I definitely agree.
You know,
I think that might be
just,
why he wasn't in the story, most likely, because he would have had too big of a
yeah,
part to play. He would have had too big of a role to play. Let
yeah,
me go through
yeah.
these donos real quick, and then we can
ahead.
kind of get here go into a little bit of a different discussion. So I got CDL. Do you think there will be a part 3? No, I definitely don't think so. Do you think so?
No, absolutely not. You know, I said like in the last stream, if we did, maybe it's like you know, someone said it earlier in the chat where it's like, hey, just give us 100 chapters where we just get like one little chapter with all these people. I don't know, guys, don't get your hopes up. If we do, it's a spin-off. I don't know, but there is no way this would be like a modulo situation.
I've got an idea for you that I think you might like. Let's say that this is the timeline reset, but actually Denji's in the Truman Show, and chapter 1 of part 3 is Kishibe and Rize breaking him out of the fake reality. And they said, "You're actually Chainsaw Man. Stop. We've got to break you out of here." And then that's the start of it. They get him out. He's in a fake reality. He's in a dream. He's in dreamland. There you go. And that everyone comes back, and we're right back into it, baby. We're right back there,
baby. Yeah. No, this turns into some Fast and Furious shit.
Kobeni's driving the getaway
space.
car. You know, we got it, man. We're back with the old cast.
I heard one person in my comment section say the thing they were ultimately disappointed with, and they had to have been trolling. But they're like, I'm so disappointed that we didn't get the reveal of who Kobeni is contracted with. And I'm like, you got to be fucking kidding me. Out of all the fucking things we got in part 2, that is the one thing you're fucking LARPing on. I'm like, holy cow, dude.
So funny to me. I saw that definitely had been like a common troll, as I saw that too, for sure, and that made me laugh. I was like, all right, that's funny.
Kobeni. Dude, I saw on Twitter today, and this was serious, where they're like, guys, here's some of the important things that we got to now talk about. Kobeni is in fact contracted with the Death Devil, and here's why. And it was like a thread, and like 2,000 people liked it, and I like rolled my eyes, and I'm like, guys, stop.
It's bad.
So,
it's bad.
To bring it back full circle, there's more possibilities of a part 3 happening because of how this chapter concluded. But do I believe it's going to happen? No way. I think Fujimoto was really done. Like in the way Gege was, just like he's done, man. I think that's why chapter 232 was called Thank You, Chainsaw Man.
Partner back up with Yuji Kaku. He's going to partner back up with Yuji Kaku, bro. And he's going to fucking make part 3. I'm telling you. He's not going to draw it. He's just going to write it.
Jesus Christ, dude.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. We may not. At this point, like, do we really want a part 3? Do you guys really want a part 3? It seems like you don't. But you know what? No. I feel like if we got one, I would read it. I know a lot of people are also saying that they would never touch a single thing that Fujimoto ever read, but I highly doubt that. I'm sure if Fujimoto came out with something new, we'd all probably read it. Where does Chainsaw Man rank in your both of all time? I don't even think I would put Chainsaw Man in my personal top 10, but I don't know how you feel about that.
Just in manga? Or just like in like the anime sphere?
It says all time, so like maybe in all of fiction, or maybe we could do both, maybe just manga. It's not in either of mine, to be honest with you. But you could give both if you wanted to.
God, man, maybe this was a hot take. I remember one of my friends asking me, like, you know, what were your top 3 memorable like anime, or maybe it was a top 5. And I think Chainsaw Man was like at number 5 or number 3 because my reasoning at the time is that, you know, through all the shonen tropes and all these shonen things that are like, you know, just kind of like rinse and repeat with different characters and backgrounds, Chainsaw Man was really a breath of fresh air, even though some of those tropes still happen, with just so unconventional. You know, I think a lot of people forget, or maybe they don't forget, that like, dude, Makima is just like, I think one of the best written antagonists, period. You know, I think she's just such a great character, and that reveal of like, man, she's fucking sus, but getting to that conclusion is like, dude, I like people reading Chainsaw Man for the first time. That's like, I envy that. You know, I think Makima is such a well-written character, even if Chainsaw Man is not in your top 10s. I think Makima really stands up there with some of the greats, you know, when it comes to antagonists. You know, maybe not like a Griffith tier, you know, but like she's up there, you know.
Yeah, I definitely think Makima is a great character. I love Denji as far as like a main character goes. Like I said, I loved Asa and Yoru. I thought their dynamic was really interesting to go through in this story.
Yeah.
It was. I thought it was great. I love the way that. The one thing I will say is that like I definitely think when it comes to character writing, I think Fujimoto is that's his highlight, regardless of there not being that many great side characters in part 2. Like the development that Denji got throughout part 2, I can't lie, I thought it was great. I loved Asa, like her, despite her not getting an ending, of course, but like I loved her journey through the series. I loved Yoru's journey. I loved everyone's. I realistically, like I said, like I think I do like Chainsaw Man Part 2, but like thinking about it, going back, I'm like, would I read this again? Probably not, personally. Probably not. Like, it's just like going, like, part 1, I feel like has a lot of really fun moments and exciting things that I can go back to, and I'm like, oh, that was fun. I'd love to go back and read that. Whereas like part 2, I'm like, it feels like it's a slog. It feels like it's a drag to read. Like it's a good story, but it's like you're, again, not to say the movie, but it's like I'm watching a slow burn movie where it's like, yeah, this is a 3-hour movie that I enjoyed watching. Am I ever gonna find another 3.5 fucking hours to watch it again? Probably not.
Yeah,
it was. I still enjoyed watching the movie, but I just don't. I'm fucking almost 30 years old. I can't spend 3 hours watching a movie that is ultimately gonna be like this. You know what I mean? Like,
I think it's something you realize when you get older, right? Like, it's not that like, okay, like if you told me, hey, I have to watch a Tarantino movie again, The Hateful Eight is not the first movie that's on my mind.
Exactly.
Is that a great movie? Yeah. Did I appreciate it? Yeah. But is that a movie I'm gonna watch 20 times over? Absolutely not. No fucking shot.
Exactly.
You know, and again, that could be the recency bias. Let me just say this, because you talked about Asa. I actually adore Asa rereading the story. I think that's why the criticisms of like, okay, if her ending was kind of the way it panned out, sure, but like nothing between her and Yoru, it just leaves a bad taste in my mouth. But Chainsaw Man Part 1 is so fun. Like, if you were to say, would I reread Chainsaw Man Part 1? Yes. There's many scenarios I can see rereading it because those moments stick out, you know?
Fucking Power running the dudes over with Kobeni's car, like so many fucking
there's
dumb
so
moments.
many meme moments in that, you know? I mean, geez, it's they're fun. Everyone was fun in part 1. You know, when I saw the Reze arc movie, I forgot how much fun I had with all those characters. Like seeing Violence Fiend and seeing Aki, seeing Angel, knowing where they end up going. Dude, it's so memorable. Part 2, what are the standout moments? I gotta glaze Yuko. I forgot to glaze her. I mentioned her.
Yuko, dude, don't come to school tomorrow. Like,
dude, I took a screenshot. I didn't share it with you, but I knew when we were going to this conversation, there's that perfect dark comedy where that Fujimoto like where it excels at the most. Where the chapter starts off with Asa saying like, oh my God, I'm sorry, I have to interject. I just don't like silent moments. Like it just weird. I just always have to talk. And Yuko's like, no, it's okay. Now let's talk about like something we would never share. And then like, you know, Asa says like, yeah, one time I like peed myself, blah, blah, blah. And Yuko's like, yeah, there was a guy like at a pachinko machine that shouldn't have been there. And I just straight up murdered him. And the panel, it just like they both sit. And as I'm rereading it, it's so funny. But then I self-insert myself as Asa, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm actually
it's
fucking
so
terrified.
fucking realistic.
So dude, but I gotta sit with this moment. Dude, it's one of my fucking favorite moments of all time. I can't find the panel right now, but I took a screenshot, dude. That moment, I'm like, oh shit.
I completely agree. As like someone that like without context has been in like a similar situation to that where someone like is like someone just tells you something extremely violent and you're just kind of like, oh, well, all right. Like, I'm trying to process what you just told me, but also at the same time, like, I kind of want to find a way out of this situation that I'm in right now. That it's so that's one thing that I think Fujimoto does really, because there's another moment where he does it really well. When right before Fumiko gets introduced and Denji's in the theater and with Yoshida and Yoshida's like, oh, like, we're going to a movie. You're gonna have a girl come go on a date. Like, you're gonna be happy. And he goes, oh, like, and then it's just Denji by himself in the empty fucking movie theater looking so depressed. And I'm like, the way when Fujimoto does scenes like that, like, he's so great at doing that. Like, he's great at putting you in the scene and making you feel exactly what a character is feeling without saying anything, without putting any dialogue on screen. You can turn a page and you get hit with that emotion that he's trying to hit, that make you feel. And that's another perfect moment too, where like that is an iconic moment that like does live in my head rent free. Like, I will always remember that moment and that panel of like literally like I said, just those boxes of just them just being quiet.
Yeah. And things weren't expanded upon, but like, one of those panels that live rent free too is like the gun goddess. Like, dude, that reveal was fucking insane.
Crazy.
When that chapter dropped, we're all theorizing about the gun devil again. It's like, oh my God, what is Tank going to do now? And, I love when Denji got turned into a tree or a Pochita, right? Like that panel where he's like, dude, it is gnarly. So yeah, man. Yeah. Some of the best paneling out there for sure. But yeah, like you said, can I recommend part 2? It's hard. I think I go back to Game of Thrones when if someone who never watched Game of Thrones and you make the joke of like, just stop watching after season 4. But now if you're that person who saw the first 4 seasons and you don't know how it ends, how can you tell me to stop watching after season 4?
Yeah, literally.
You have to see how it plays out. I think that's kind of similar to Chainsaw Man. It's like you read part 1, they're like, people say part 2 is bad, and then they get the whole thing with the Yuko. They get the fake Chainsaw Man. They get the aquarium stuff. They get the Falling Devil arc, and they're like, what is everyone talking about? This is perfect. And then we go to Chainsaw Man Church onwards,
I know what you're saying. I don't know if I could ever compare anything to the fucking devastating heartbreak that was Game of Thrones, but I do. I know what you're saying. I don't know.
You see what I'm saying? It's like,
that one was really just the worst ending in the entire world. But that's without getting off topic, because I could rant for another 3 hours about that. Don't get me started.
Yeah. But, no. Of course. I know your boy Chibi Reviews. I heard his.
That's not my boy. Don't ever say that. I don't ever say that ever again.
dude, your boy. Fucking. I think I told you. I heard a lot of people's thoughts on the final chapter of Chainsaw Man, and dude, he had the fucking gall to say, guys, I'm going to have to say it. I think this is as bad, if not worse, than the ending of Game of Thrones. And I fucking laughed when he said that, because I'm like,
lowbrow IQ take.
You don't understand the fucking seething wrath and hate I had for Game of Thrones season 8. Again, I don't want to make this an additional 3 hours too, but man, I think people really seem to forget how fucking terrible that finale was. I mean, you couldn't have had a more of a fucking home run smash.
Yep.
And Dan and Dave just fucking
blew it.
I mean, butchered is putting it lightly. They fucking massacred that shit.
They ruined it so bad. George R.R. Martin is never going to release another book now. He said, I don't even want to do it anymore. He said, I'm done. He said, fuck this shit. I'm writing other shit now.
I know. But to bring it back to fucking Chainsaw Man, you were answering donations,
yes, but I agree. It's nowhere near. People were saying that when Modulo ended, they're like, "Oh, it's the next Game of Thrones." Like, no, it is not. Like, I think I remember I was watching a short. I don't remember who it was, but I was watching a short, and someone said they were like, "You guys wouldn't know a bad fucking ending if it hit you over the face with a brick." And it's like, it's true, because it's like, look, you can make your criticisms if you want, but like, Game of Thrones was just horrendous. Like, to talk about, you want to talk about things getting just thrown out. I'm getting pulled into it. Yeah, I know. But answering donations. Would the ending have been better if Fujimoto still had his assistants? I don't know if that definitely would have fixed the art. I think that would have made the art a lot more enjoyable to read. I actually have a theory, and I'm curious, because this brings me into it. And I'm glad I do want to probably end stream in like 10, 15, because we've been yapping for a while.
Sure, you're good.
I gotta walk the doggos. But I'm curious. I kind of thought about this as I was reading it again, and I thought to myself, I wonder if everyone's like, oh, Fujimoto was tired of it. Fujimoto just wanted to be done with the story. He wanted to be over with it. I wonder because most mangas they usually schedule in advance, right? Like they schedule like a certain amount of chapter and like this is their ending. This is their ending chapter. At least that's what I've heard. I don't know how true that is. But like I'm wondering if like Fujimoto made his schedule in advance and that's why we got 14 to 15 page chapters because he's like, I just gotta fucking make this last until my final chapter day, right? Like, and that's why like so many things got dragged out for so long and we got such short chapters because he's like, I have 2 more years on the series and I could finish it in 6 months. So I need to stretch this shit out longer to actually hit the scheduled thing, right? Like, and that's why again, like we have sections that feel like they go on for so long because he's quite literally like, okay, I have to do 14 chapters here. I have to stretch this chapter out here. And that's why some chapters feel like there's 2 chapters just split in half. Almost right where it's this could have just been 1 chapter. Like again, that's just something that I kind of thought of as I was reading. I'm like, I wonder if like this date was just set in stone and he just had to get to this date and his story ended up not being that long or
or the dealings of the contract was, hey, we're gonna give you a boatload of money, you're gonna write us Chainsaw Man Part 2, but this has to continue serialization for 3 years.
Yep, exactly. Like you have to do a certain amount of time with the series.
Yeah, because when you reread the early arcs, they're not 14 pages.
Yeah.
We have many 22, 28 pages. And that's the thing I enjoyed. I'm like, oh my God, we're getting a good beginning, middle, and end with every chapter. That's what I'm saying. Like, dude, I love the stuff with Yuko. I can't, like, I'm rereading it with just such a blast. And I'm like, oh my God, they're like 22, 28 page chapters. Yeah.
I wonder if this was like supposed to be closer to 97 chapters, like with part 1. And then when he realized he's like, I'm not going to be able to make this chapter count. I have to figure something out. And like, he just stretched.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't know. That's just something I thought of. Obviously anything can be true, right? We'll never know for sure. But like, I thought that was an interesting, like, I was like, I wonder if that's the case, but I mean, to be honest with you, I have gotten through everything that I intended to talk about. So I don't know if there's anything that you still wanted to touch base on, if there's still major thoughts in your head, before we kind of come to a close here. But yeah, I just took a look at my notes. I went through almost everything that I had to mention.
Yeah, no. I took a lot of screenshots because I thought they just would have been like things I wanted to discuss. I'm sure I'm missing something here or there, but no, I'm
in no rush, by the way. So like, if you do want to bring stuff up, please.
Yeah. I'm looking through my screenshots. No, I just love the beginning of how the story started. I think it was just really cool seeing Denji at an all-time high. Even seeing like the early beginnings of like Yoshida and like what he was trying to do, right? I found the panel with the secret organization. I belong to an organization that's tasked with keeping an eye on you. It's not an evil organization like in some manga. Our goal is simply to ensure that you live a peaceful life. So he says this in chapter 103 after the battle with the cockroach devil. But yeah, it was just little things I wanted to bring up if there are just any inconsistencies with part 2. But, to not beat a dead horse, I think I've kind of made my peace, right, where we stand with part 2. I think you and I are in agreement with most things. I wish, Kishibe and Reze self-insert that, even with that aside, that, yeah, I think we've come to the conclusion that if Fujimoto had 232 in mind when he was writing the beginning of the story, that's where my disappointment lands in that, hey, you brought interesting concepts and ideas. You don't want to expand upon them. This story could have been way less shorter, tighter, give us the same conclusion. And you know what? That's probably the easy answer. When you ask like, hey, this is still the same conclusion, how would you have rewritten it? The Kishibe Reze, fanfic aside, okay, if this is how we're getting it, there's things we could have skipped. There's things we could have skipped. We don't have to fucking embellish on. It could have been tighter. Get rid of the fake Chainsaw Man completely, or get rid of all that fucking alleyway prison break stuff, break arc stuff, and give us more time with the fake Chainsaw Man. So now when we get to that like realization and impact that he was like the guy that Denji chose not to save, because the impact when the Falling Devil resurfaces again, or it was something where like the Fire Devil, someone's talking to him, I forgot, where they're like, hey man, like you need to feel guilty about like this kid that you chose not to save.
I think that's when like the Falling Devil's putting him through like the memory thing, and that's when Asa does she saves him. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Like again, it's when he comes back. I just like as I was rereading it before the stream, I'm like, oh man, this is good, but I like forgot about him at that point.
Yeah.
So that's why it was jarring. Where it's like, okay, here we go. And even then, again, you can tell Fujimoto just kind of ended it quickly. He had the ideas, but the execution just fell flat, right?
Yeah.
So just like, but that was the least of my worries with Chainsaw Man Part 2. So, yeah, man, I said it in my reviews and live stream yesterday. I love the series. I'm glad that, I made a career talking about Chainsaw Man. And, I think it's beautiful to me. That's the thing. It's like, dude, I love the journey, and again, if you want to put that Big Lebowski quote and all this stuff of like, hey man, if life is meaningless and, things are the mundane things we need to learn to appreciate more, like walking our dogs and, just talking to a stranger, like, of course, like those are the lessons I take, but those go way beyond from Chainsaw Man. That's just something I learned from life.
Exactly.
So I didn't need Chainsaw Man to teach me that. So, if the fucking Glazers defending the ending want to go with that route, it's like, I feel like I kind of got there, or that's a conclusion I hope most people will go through as they get older.
Right. Mm-hmm. No, I think I think people that say this ending is a 10 out of 10 are coping. I think people that say that this ending is a 0 out of 10 are lying. Again, like for me, like my ending, I guess opinion is that like, I don't know. For me, like, I don't know if for people that have watched me for long and like you said, you watched some of my reviews. Like I tend to be a little I'm very forgiving with the stories that I tend to read. I know like endings are notoriously very hard to land. That's a satisfying conclusion that everybody and their mother enjoys for sure. However, this one, like I mean, like I said, I've told you all of my interpretations, all of my reasonings, and all of the imaginative things that I can glean from the story myself. Even with all of that, it doesn't leave the ending hitting for me personally. I think as much grace as I can give my man, I don't think that this was it. But also, like after finishing Look Back too, and like knowing how he does his other stories, I'm slowly realizing I'm like, what could I have expected from this man, right? Like,
that's the thing, right? So like, I think Fujimoto is still an extraordinary mangaka, but but the ending, the Chainsaw Man, is his first miss to me.
Yeah.
Like, hey, we can say all these things about Fujimoto as a mangaka. I think the ideas were there. The executions fell on certain points. So,
which I think is okay to say.
Which is okay to say. Yeah, perfect. I still think he's great. But I think Chainsaw Man Part 2 is really his first miss. Because the thing with Fire Punch is that story was so fucking out there. That like if you weren't 10 chapters in and not really comprehending what you were reading, and then you get to that conclusion, how can like and again, it's okay to be unsatisfied, but Fire Punch is just a weird fucking story, and he was at a different point in his career.
Yeah.
The way I'm critiquing Chainsaw Man Part 2 is with all the accolades Fujimoto has already.
Yeah, it's like a band when they come out with their first album, and then when they release their fourth album, it's like, I can't make as many excuses for you guys. You guys have had plenty of time to figure this shit out.
Bingo. I went to see more recently because I love the Gorillaz. The Gorillaz recently dropped a new album. I enjoyed it. I think it's a different part in their career. Is it my favorite album? No. But I appreciate what they were doing with that, and to bring it back to the Chainsaw Man, I appreciate where he was going with this. But there are just certain things that just leaves a bad taste in my mouth. I guess to put a rating on Chainsaw Man Part 2, I can't give it an 8. I think 7 is even just me being generous. But a 6 sounds really insulting too. To me, it's like, all right, man, it's a 7. 7 out of 10.
Low 7.
Even then, I think that's a little too high. But is it a 5 out of 10? I don't think so. Mm-hmm. Is it a 6 out of 10? I think it's a little better than a 6. So 6.5, I don't know. But then we think of like this academics of like, oh, so you're saying it's like a D. It's like, 70 out of 100 is still pretty good. 7 out of 10 is so good.
The
Chainsaw Man Part 1
rating has been fucked lately, but no. Giving something a 6 out of 10 isn't bad,
Yeah, and I say that because again, I'm going to critique it more harshly with everything else I've seen him do, especially if you are making this obviously the sequel to Chainsaw Man Part 1, which is basic, saying a 10 out of 10 is too, is me glazing it, but like it's easily a fucking 9 out of 10 Chainsaw Man Part 1. So when you combine it with Part 2, it's like yeah, this is a hard conversation to have, But yeah, I was still thankful for the experience nonetheless. There was something else I had to bring up that you were talking about prior, but I don't remember. So I think this could be a good stopping point.
What devil's Pochita? What devil is Pochita?
Dude, I told you earlier. Dude, out of all my takes, I don't care.
Oh my God.
Dude, I'm sincerely
said I don't give a fuck.
I don't give a fuck. Dude, out of all the fucking problems we got with Chainsaw Man Part 2, I've accepted a long time ago.
Okay.
I don't care. Now, here's the thing. If I've saw a lot of theories, and I actually like the Dream Devil.
Yeah, that's what I was going to bring up.
That's such a unique thing. I've never thought about that because, again, they kept on bringing, and even actually throughout parts of Part 2, there are parts where they talk about the dream. This is a dream. And I'm like, oh shit.
Honestly, going back and reading Part 1 before the stream, like it's even weird too. Like when Pochita does show up, like Denji is kind of like the Yakuza leaves him. He's alone. He's like, you better fucking have the money or you're fucking dead. And like Denji's like literally like at probably the worst fucking moment of his life. He thinks of his dad hanging. And then Pochita shows up randomly, and like they have like the contract that they make, and I'm like, that's so interesting. And like they even talk about dreams constantly. And when he first does, he goes, all right, here's the contract. He goes, I'll give you my heart, but you have to show me your dreams. Show me all of the dreams that you want. And then it makes me think of again when like he's about to turn to Chainsaw Man, and Pochita's like, aren't you happy now? Like you got all your dreams, and what do you want to dream next, Denji? What do you want to dream next? And he's like, I want to be Pochita. I want to be Chainsaw Man. And then literally, it's almost like, I mean, the world was kind of already ramping up to this point anyway, right? But it's like almost exactly as that's what Denji describes as he wants his dream to be. He's given the exact, reality that he needs to become Chainsaw Man again. So it's almost like, is this a dream ending? Like I so much prefer like Denji being like, I woke up from a dream as like he wasn't actually dreaming. Like it just feels like he woke up from a dream. Like I'm much more like of the line like it's an actual universal reset. Like he wasn't in a dream and just dreaming everything. But also at the same time, I'm like, you know what? Like while on paper, if you just say an ending was it's all a dream, like people are gonna be like that sucks. But also at the same time, I'm kind of like, that kind of makes a little sense actually. If that was really like, if the seeds are even planted from as early as chapter 1, I'm like, you know what? I'm kind of okay with that. Like that's kind of like, clearly if he is the Dream Devil, quote unquote, that was clearly never the fucking case to begin with. That I will never attest to. That's clearly just verbiage that was used in the beginning that Fujimoto might have been like, hey, well, now I can make him the Dream Devil. You know what I mean? Like that was never the intention to begin with. But like, I'm like, you know what? I'm okay with it.
But again, I think this is where we just get so enthusiastic of like, okay, let's say he was a Dream Devil or whatever.
What the fuck does that change? What does it matter? It doesn't.
Like my follow-up question is then why chainsaws? Like what's the whole thing, right? With chainsaws. But then I guess you can just say it's just a very simple way of like, well, this is chainsaws because when we go back again with the thematic elements of like Makima and the trees and like cutting down, et cetera, like chainsaws just fit that motif better. Just doing that, even if Pochita's like the Dream Devil. And again, I guess that's also an easy cop out to say, well, he's the Dream Devil and Pochita just thought fucking chainsaws were cool too. So that's why
he just fucking thought chainsaws were
like,
cool.
He just thought chainsaws were fucking cool, right?
I mean, it's so fun. You know what? It's so funny that like I was getting so many comments because I made a short that was like talking about this or whatever, that like it's confirmed he's not the chain. Some people were like, he's obviously the Chainsaw Devil. He has chainsaws, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay. Like no one fucking comes to me and goes, oh, he's the Dog Devil because he's a dog. No one says that. Everyone's so focused on a chainsaw poking out of his head. Why is he a dog? That's not ever explained either. So that's my answer.
Yeah.
You know what? We're just never gonna know. He's the fucking. He's the. And you know what? The one thing that I will not stand for, but just to end it on, and I want anyone that's in this chat right now to know, if you are someone that thinks Pochita was the devil, just stop. Just stop right now. Just stop.
I saw
please.
that too. Yeah.
That is the absolute worst theory imaginable. And I refuse to believe that's even like an actually legitimate theory. You need to come up with something better. The devil is not it.
I saw that too. I thought that was lame. Let me just quickly read this, talking about what devil he could be. This is on Twitter, of course, because I love seeing the thoughts on Twitter. With 21K hearts, by the way, and 680 retweets. The ending confirmed 9 things about Pochita and hinted at one more. 1, he's not the chainsaw devil. Chainsaw still exists. He's not the birth devil. Devils are still reborn. He's not the devil. Devil still exists. He's not the existence devil. Existence still exists. He's not the forgotten devil. Denji has forgotten everything that has happened since the first chapter. He's not the progress devil. He's not the life devil. He's not the destruction devil. He's not the loneliness devil. And that leaves us with one thing. That's Pochita is the dream devil.
Yeah.
Dude, guys, the life devil, the destruction devil, oh my god, the progress devil, boy, guys, we are fucking just reaching to the moon.
The progress devil, I love that. Dude. Oh my god, bro.
Because I'll quickly say this one little thing. If this is the end of Chainsaw Man, I just say I loved all the primal fears that we got.
Yeah.
I love darkness. I love falling. I love aging. Like, I love them all for different reasons. I think aging was probably the most fascinating, and the Falling Devil was just so charismatic. Like, I loved the presence of the Falling Devil. I wish we could have got more, but I loved what we got with these 3. And if anything, maybe that's like the impact too of Primal Fear. It's like, hey, we don't fuck with them, and the ones that we got, like, hey, they're no one to be.
I do love that they were all so different. I will agree with you. Where I love that they all had such different personalities. They weren't just like they weren't like the Darkness Devil was the first one to get introduced to, and we're like, oh my god, they're just these fucking insane powerhouses that are unreal. And then we have Falling, who is literally she just wants to cook. She's super chill, and she's like, you know what? If I have to kill everybody, that's fine. I'm cool with that, but I'm gonna cook meals too. And then you've got the Aging Devil, who's like, you know what? I'm also just chill, but you know what? I want to watch a bunch of children die. It's just they're very unique, and I did appreciated that they weren't just like personalityless, like just like forces of nature. Like, they were all different, and it makes sense that like these devils that have lived forever, that have never died, would be so fucking unique. So yeah, if we can glaze the series on one last thing, that's for sure what we can do for real. I think you're right on that. Right on that one. He made a good world. The Chainsaw Man world is a great world. It's exciting to be in, which is why, like, if we got a part 3, I wouldn't be upset. I said in our last conversation, if it ended up being just man and like Denji had no powers and like it was just like him living a normal public safety life, like, contrary to I know that would completely defeat the purpose of the name of the series. I would love that. I think for as weird Fujimoto's writing can get, I feel like he could make it an interesting story to go through. But do you have any final thoughts? Do you have anything that you remembered you want to bring up, or is there, what did you want to close out on today?
Again, it's a great ride. You know, having this conversation with you truly has helped. You know, I enjoy talking with my comrades in this space, nerding out. And, you know, even the fact that, man, 200 people are still hearing us ramble almost 3 hours later. It just like, it's a testament to the series, right? And I think a testament to any series where people are just passionate about that. So guys, you know, again, keep on dreaming. Don't let the opinions of others like instill how you feel about it. You know, even if we may disagree on certain things, it's just like, that's the beauty of any series, right? So yeah, again, just keep on dreaming, and thank you for being a part of this with me. And yeah, again, I'm still feeling optimistic that I got this journey, you know.
Hell yeah, 100%. No, thank you for coming on. Thank you for always being willing to talk about Chainsaw Man when something fucking crazy was going on. It is, as much as we're able to, you know, criticize and, you know, and complain and rant, I definitely will say that, like, having one less manga to read on Tuesday is definitely going to be upsetting, especially when it's Chainsaw Man. Sure. reading Chainsaw Man, for as annoying as it fucking was sometimes, reading the chapter and being like, literally nothing fucking happened this week. Why the fuck am I still reading this? But like, you know what? The Fujimoto cycle was a real thing. It has been observed in nature multiple times where we would just just go through those motions. And I don't know. I don't really know how to end it other than to say that I would read whatever he does next. I really would, because I still think he's for all the criticisms you can make, like you said, I still think he's a good writer. And I don't think any writer is flawless. I think every writer and every story is going to have weak points and issues with it, no matter what happens.
Yeah. So real quickly, so Modulo ended, Chainsaw Man ended. Did you publicly announce what you were talking about next, or is that still?
I have not publicly announced what I'm moving to next. But I'll say it right now because it's not really a secret. I'm just gonna start. We're becoming a Blue Lock channel. We're joining you and Lessons and everything and everyone else. We are for
Shut
sure.
The fuck up. Shut up.
It was either that or Shangri-La Frontier, and I would have to start Shangri-La Frontier from the very beginning, and I'm already caught up to Blue Lock. So I previously read that for enjoyment. Now I'm just gonna turn it into I guess into a career.
Blue Lock, no way. You know, because it's not a surprise in my channel. You know, when I was pumping out shorts as much as I did, Blue Lock is my pivot, and so is Kagurabachi. I mean, Kagurabachi just fucking insane right now.
Kagurabachi is it. I'm going to start. This is also a little secret too. Also going to start talking about Ichi the Witch too. I don't know if you read that, but I think that's going to be the next big thing. I have a lot of I have a lot of hope in that. That's like, so it's been going on Sundays for Shonen Jump. And like Shonen Jump has really been pushing it lately because it shows up in like #1 slot for the TOC or whatever they do every week. In Japan. So I think they're really trying to make it work in the West. And I was like, you know what? Let me give it a shot. And I read it, and it's actually, I think it's really, 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 really good. So that's also me making a recommendation to everyone in chat. I would highly recommend, if you're looking for a new series to dive into weekly. It's not Tuesday, it's on Sunday. But Ichi the Witch is it's not. I wouldn't say it's unique in the same scheme as Chainsaw Man, but it's a breath of fresh air and unique, to say the least, when it comes to shonen manga. The main character, the story, it's the same but different, if that makes sense. You know what we like, but like different enough where I'm like, okay, you're trying something new. I fuck with it.
Sure.
But yeah.
I think.
What about you?
Well, I was going to say, I think, guys, this is an important lesson to learn, too, that, like, content creation has changed so much, and I promise this will be the last thing and we can all depart and do our things, is that this is also part of the journey, right? Like hey, man, it's cool to be known as something and be established as something, but, if you want to survive in the ruthless age of content creation, you got to keep up with the trends, and you got to be able to fucking pivot when you can. Long are the days where you can be, I mean, of course there are outliers, right? Of being the dedicated Naruto channel, the Dragon Ball channel. I mean, yeah. One Piece is a fucking different beast. It's a different beast. Let's be real. The end of One Piece is not just the end of many careers on YouTube. It is a monumental moment in anime manga.
Yeah, the world is going the world's going to break.
I can glaze it like that, and you guys can take that any way you want. Dude, we talked about this before. 30 seconds, I promise. Goku turning Super Saiyan, fighting Frieza. The modern day moment of that is Gojo versus Sukuna. I can't wait to have that moment with everyone. The end of One Piece is without a doubt. Right, the end of Attack on Titan was another big moment. The end of One Piece is going to leave a huge fucking void.
It's going to be in the anime space. I saw a meme the other day with Chainsaw Man ending, and it was like Oda really figured out the masterpiece to ending his manga. Just never fucking end it, and no one can ever be mad at you. And I'm like, wow, that's kind of funny, right? But also at the same time, when One Piece does eventually come to an end, like that's gonna be a cultural phenomenon. Like that's gonna be like, people think that like Twitter was crazy when Chainsaw Man ended. Like I had my real life friends text me on Tuesday when Chainsaw Man ended, texting me going like, yo, what's going on with the Chainsaw Man ending? It's all over my timeline. And these motherfuckers don't even read the manga. You know what I mean? Like, that's how, like, it's the same thing as like when Gojo versus Sukuna was going on. My real life fucking friends were texting me going, what the fuck is going on?
I love that moment, dude. those 12, 13 weeks was just some of the best moments in my career as a content creator. I love that fucking moment.
So
yeah.
It's gonna what One Piece ending is gonna be it. You thought you guys were complaining about Manga Plus crashing when Chainsaw Man ends, Chainsaw Man final chapter. You don't think everyone and their mother is going to be tuning into that final One Piece chapter, whether or not they read the series? They're going to be there for it. Trust me.
I mean, guys, say what you will about One Piece. This shit has outsold Superman and Batman.
Yeah.
There's not any fucking series that can say that. The big three, Spider-Man, right? The big three. I'm not talking about Naruto, Bleach, and fucking One Piece. I'm talking about Spider-Man, Batman, and Superman.
Oh my God. Spider-Man, move over. Batman, it's Luffy now.
Dude, it fucking dethroned. Dude, yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. So anyway.
But yeah, thank you so much for coming on.
Sir.
Yes,
Absolutely,
yes.
man.
Everyone, if you haven't already, hit the like button, subscribe to me, subscribe to Miles, subscribe to both of our channels, because like you heard, we got plenty of stuff coming up for the future, for plenty of other series that you may be reading. One journey ends, but multiple others begin. I think Miles said it best, actually. Everyone just keep on dreaming, that if there's anything you could take from this ending, peace sign, just keep it up. Just keep it up. Just keep dreaming, guys. Don't ever give up. And you know what? If you're gonna ever find yourself having sex, as Poacher just says, just don't. Just don't, guys. It's better if you didn't. Practice abstinence. That was the real message of Chainsaw Man. All right, guys. Everyone have a beautiful night. Thank you so much for popping in. And I will see you guys in the next one.